night, good night, good night, good night. You can hear me now. I'm sure you can hear me now. Wonderful Sunday evening. It is Joyanne Faith. Oh my goodness, Joyanne. Joyanne, you were on from 3:05 today. 3:05 p.m. You had, I'm so excited. I can't wait. Listen, I've been excited all morning. Oh, I'm like you, Joyanne. Rameem says, wonderful Sunday, loyal, patriotic opposition. Let us keep the Holy Spirit's help by prayer and fasting to rescue and restore him. Slay the sleight of hand in the spirit. God's word must stand. Repent, rise. Hi, Rameem. Good night, Rameem. Good night. Good night. Please like and share. Listen to what Rameem says. You know, she's an administrator here. Rameem is telling you to like and share the link ASAP to everyone you know. BIM needs all hands on deck. And I'm telling you tonight, you know, as I came on, what was going in my mind? All things are possible. All things are possible. Barbados, don't give up. Don't give up. All things are possible to them who believe. Do you believe tonight? You believe? Good night, patriots. You believe? Loyal opposition. Come on, fall in line, fall in line, fall in line. It's we the people. We don't have the opposition in parliament, but it's the people. We are the opposition. We are going to open our mouth. We are going to speak out. Yes, yes, yes. Tonight is a good night. Diana Seeley, good night. Tracy Barrow, good night. Good night, everybody who's on. Mark Clark, Houston Fields, Sir Alfin Benjamin, from Brooklyn, New York City. Listen, you all need to continue to share. Tonight we have an amazing show that is lined up. And first up, we're gonna have the Honorable CORETTA McDonald from Guyana. Who remember that clip that has been going viral on WhatsApp, Barbados WhatsApp, just going viral, where she's, you know, she's calling out the Prime Minister of Barbados and saying to her, just listen, don't come to our country. Oh Lord of me. So she's on tonight. So you Guyanese, listen, if you Guyanese, you're gonna share this link, right? You're going to share this link. So I'm just gonna give you a message. I'm just gonna give you a moment to share. And you know what? I am going to actually send the link to Miss McDonald, because we did not do that. And I'm hearing myself because I'm sending her the look. I'm hearing myself. Give me a moment. Okay, so there you go. There you go. Honorable McDonald, if you check your WhatsApp, you will see the link that you could send to your Guyanese citizens. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I apologize for that break there a while ago, but I had to make sure that she has that, guys, and so she can get some love and support on here tonight. So, yes, so important. ADG, good night. Good night. Good night. I want to make sure that Mr. Franklin is back on. I know he would want to be here when we are interviewing the Honorable CORETTA McDonald. So just a few minutes. Okay, wonderful. He's here. He's here. Mr. Franklin is here, and I'm going to bring him in the studio in a moment. I could see he's just settling himself a little bit. And we are ready to go. Walter Maloney, hello. Walter Maloney, yes, we're going to talk about Senator Nichols and the kind of justice that he's meting out, you know, to Praise Academy. Some little children, why they don't find people their age to take a set on, right? Oh, Walter Maloney say he should not have been the arbiter. We're going to talk about that tonight, a little later in the program. Yes, we're going to talk about that. Then we're going to continue to talk about the Samoa Agreement. And the Samoa Agreement, that was signed by several countries. Guyana was one of those countries that did not sign that agreement to sign away our children to learning comprehensive sexuality education and promoting this gender confusion. So thank God for that. Guyana didn't sign, but Barbados signed. Barbados signed. And Trinidad didn't sign. Jamaica, the 9 Caribbean countries didn't sign. Yeah. Let me see if Mr. Franklin is ready for us. Good evening, greetings, Pedro, Everton, good night, Jeffrey Silvers, good night, Jeffrey, good night, Jeffrey. I want to say something to us, guys, that we will not get weary in well-doing. I know sometimes you say you're wondering if it's working. Look at what happened. We did a show on here, over 3,000 views already. And guess what? The mainstream media picked up our guest. Did you all realize that the mainstream media picked up our guest and brought them on Brass Tacks today? Yeah, coming straight from this show. So I want you to know, opposition, don't be discouraged. They are listening. They are watching and they are listening. Don't you be discouraged. Don't you be discouraged. With no opposition, no formal opposition in Parliament, nor in the Senate. Everything is a government in Barbados. It's you, the people. It's you, the people. And look at it. You sounded an alarm, and it happened with water. This is not the first time we sounded an alarm on this show. And then they picked it up on mainstream media. It's not the first time. It has happened. It happened with the water. It happened with the digital ID. It happened with several things. The pension, so many things. Right from this platform, and picked up in on the mainstream media. And we're just gonna keep the fire. We're gonna keep the fire going. Let me just welcome Mr. Franklin. I see him putting on his headphones, and he's going to be ready. And in a minute, Miss McDonald, Honorable CORETTA McDonald, will be with us. Mr. Franklin, happy Sunday. How are you?
Oh, I am well and excited about tonight. Because I too want to talk about the Arbiter, because I don't know if I sent it to you.
Yeah, I saw, but listen, don't touch him yet. Don't touch him yet. We gonna deal with them. Everybody share up. We're gonna deal with the auditor, the arbiter, but not Dre Studi guy. Welcome, watching from Guyana. Share it up, please, so that we can hear the Honorable CORETTA McDonald tonight and what she has to say. So, Mr. Franklin, you're still sorting out? Are you?
No, I am good now.
You're good now. Wonderful. All right. So we have the Honorable CORETTA McDonald here with us. You would have seen the video that was circulating all throughout Barbados, right?
I said the wrong.
No, let's welcome Honorable CORETTA McDonald to the Marcia Week Show. Welcome, ma'am.
Hi, good evening to you, good evening to your other guests, and good evening to your viewing audience. I'm delighted to be here. I'm all excited. I'm thinking that this is going to be a rough ride, a smooth ride, whatever the ride is. We're in this together and we will rock and roll. So good night again, and thank you for having me on your program.
Good night. I feel like I know her. I sat around her video so many times. I think, and mind you, I watch it almost as many times too.
Well, let's tell the people who this beautiful lady, Guyanese lady is. She is the Honorable CORETTA McDonald, Member of Parliament of APNU and the Central Executive Member of the PNCR. She's also an educator. And I'm so thrilled to have you. And my guest and co-host is Caswell Franklyn, and he is a union leader here in Barbados and a former senator as well. And I think you are a union are you a union leader as well?
That's true. I'm also the General Secretary for the Guyana Teachers Union. I just came off as being president of the Guyana Trades Union Congress. We had our Congress 3 days ago, and so we have a new president now. So, in by saying all of that, you would recognize that I'm an advocate for rights, equality, and fairness. As a matter of fact, I speak out against issues when they are not going right, and I'm very fearless.
Yes, I could see that. I could see that. Well, you're sitting here with Caswell Franklyn, and he's of a similar temperament, and he speaks out on injustices in Barbados. Before we get into the actual clip, can you talk to us about what's going on with Guyana and Venezuela and the situation with the oil? Where are you with that at this moment?
Well, let me say to you, first of all, that the whole issue, the controversy that we're having with Barbados, that started quite a long time ago. As a matter of fact, Guyana was governed by the British, the Dutch, and the French. But then the British were able to overpower them, and we became British Guyana. So, what I'm saying here, I'm talking about since the 18th century.
Wow.
The British were able to have this kind of discussion with the French and the Spanish, and there was a clear demarcation of Guyana. And they all agreed in 1899 that the image we see now of Guyana, that's Guyana. Um, Caracas lost territory or part of their land to Brazil. That was settled since way back then. In 1966, Guyana became an independent nation. And so after that agreement was settled there, we continue to live very peacefully. Of course, every now and again, Venezuela would throw their little tantrums claiming 3/8 of our country as being theirs. That they would start up and then they would ease, and they would start up and they would ease. But after 61 years, well, 61 years later, Venezuela is now claiming again this 3/8 of Guyana as their territory. Now, all of this has come about because we have found oil here in Guyana. And that part that they're claiming is the part closest to them where the oil would have been located. We have ExxonMobil and some other overseas firms here, giants who are, they are the ones who are involved in this oil business, the oil and gas business. And as a result of the amount of oil that we are finding, Venezuela, they have decided that, well, look, Guyana is a small territory. We can't fight them. And so they're going to bully us for what is rightfully ours. As a matter of fact, later on, there was another agreement which Venezuela themselves agreed to. But now they are trumping this up again that 3/8 of Guyana belong to them. And so they have been issuing lots and lots of threats. We've seen the invasion of not Brazilians, Venezuelans into our country. And we are seeing their military at the border. They're rounding up their military. And all of those are inciting fear into the Guyanese people. And so that's where we are at this point. As a matter of fact, let me back up a little to say this whole issue is now with the International Court of Justice. Of course, you know, Venezuela, being the bully they are, they have decided that they will ignore everything. Whatever the decision is at the ICJ, as long as it doesn't go in their favor, they are going to ignore it. Further to that, they have issued a statement, and there are 5 questions in that statement where they're going to be having a referendum on the 3rd of December, where their population will vote whether they want this part of Guyana to be an annex of Venezuela. And after that would have happened on the 3rd, I'm not sure what action they're going to be taking after that date. But that's where we
This is
are at this
this,
point.
this is the 3rd of December, you said?
The 3rd of December, they're going to be having that referendum.
On a referendum in their country, and then decide on how they're going to proceed. Now, you said, you talked about the immigrants, the people, Venezuelans are coming into Guyana. What is that like? What are they in terms of numbers? What are we talking? A few Venezuelans, or are there a lot of people coming across?
Well, they're coming in here by the hundreds. They're here by the hundreds, and they're coming through any means possible. As a matter of fact, some of our border areas, it's porous. So they are sailing in here with boats, and they're touching down at shores, and then they're making their way. What I should say, too, is that there was a time when many Guyanese fled Guyana, and they went to Venezuela, neighboring Venezuela, to live. Because of the hardship that they're facing there now, the conditions that they're facing there, many of them have decided that they're going to return home to Guyana. But outside of those who are Guyanese that are returning home, we have bona fide Venezuelans who are leaving their country and they're heading here. They have one of the things that has been happening in Venezuela is that in their schools, the children there, the learners there are being taught that this 3/8 of Guyana belong to them. And so they have that on their map, and they preach that all the time. As a matter of fact, right now in their campaign and arousing the kind of excitement in their country, let me put it that way, they're saying Essequibo is ours, and we are going to make that.
Okay, one second, Honorable. I'm not sure if it's your hand, but your
sorry.
Sound is probably where the mic is. Yes. Okay. Good.
Are you here? Right. Are you hearing me better now?
Yeah, good. It's better.
So
yes. Okay.
I'm saying that in their schools, they're teaching the learners there that 3/8 of Guyana belong to them, and so from childhood, they are growing up believing that Guyana has robbed them. So they're coming here and claiming that this is their land and they're going to be settling here, and they're just waiting for the 3rd of December to vote on this whole issue. And as a result of that, of course, our people here, our Guyanese folks here, those living in Guyana, those outside of Guyana, whether they're in the US, whether they're in Barbados, whether they're wherever they are, we are all concerned about this whole situation. Hence the reason for us reaching out to our sister islands in the Caribbean, in CARICOM, in Latin America, and further afield, to assist us with what is going on here, to give some support in terms of making statements, because we all know 61 years after you've decided that this land now belongs to you. In 1899, you would have settled that, and then you relaxed that whole notion. And now 61 years later, you're coming to see 3/8 of Guyana is yours. So you can understand the anxiety that persons are feeling.
Before you get to CARICOM, because I want to get there, and I know Mr. Franklin has a question or two for you. I want to ask you though, you talked about the army that you're seeing, the Venezuelan army. Am I right in that the Guyanese can look out their windows and they could see the Venezuelan army in Guyana? Is that what you're saying?
Well, those who are living very close to the border, they have been seeing aircrafts flying there. As a matter of fact, aircrafts have been flying around those areas. We would have had, I should say that the Essequibo is one of the richest parts of our country, where we have the oil, we have gold, we have diamond, we have iron ore, we have manganese, we have the forest, everything we have there. And so they have been seizing the equipment from our Guyanese miners who are mining for the gold and diamond in those areas. They've been seizing their equipment. They've been holding them hostage in their country, and then after a while releasing them, but seizing everything that they have. And so you can understand the kind of anxiety that our people who are living close to the border, that they're experiencing at this time.
Yes, wow. Mr. Franklin, before we go any further, I could tell you, do you have a question for Honorable McDonald? And while he's doing that, can you please share? This is important. This is our I know what the Prime Minister said. Venezuela is our sister country. Guyana is our sister country. We're going to get to that. But Mr. Franklin, do you have a question for her? Please share, please. Everybody, share. Okay, let me unmute you. Go ahead, sir.
Now, I have a serious question, then I have a comment. Not so serious, but what about United Nations? Have you not approached United Nations and sought assistance in that area? Because I know you went to the court, which is also a part of the United Nations system. But what about approaching the General Assembly and whatever to get people to pass a resolution or whatever?
Okay, Honorable McDonald, we've lost your video.
Yes,
okay.
Sorry about that. We
Yes,
just had to do a
okay.
little bit of fixing. Yes,
Okay,
we've sought help from everywhere. We've sought help from the UK. We've discussed this matter at the UN and everywhere else. Our president, the president of the country, would have discussed this issue, asking for support. And so, while we're having support coming from those entities, we are in the courts. Like I said earlier, we are in the courts with this matter.
Well, the other one I said was not a lot for that line. You know, I saw your video, and I would say I disagree with one thing. You're telling them don't come together. I was telling you to all to keep her.
I'm sorry, I missed that one. Sorry.
No, I said you were telling her not to come together. The Bible was so hoping that you would all keep her. You know.
You're referring to the video where you're saying that I said your prime minister should not come to Guyana. That's what you're referring to.
That's the part. Yes, that's the part. I was saying I hope that you would keep her when she goes there rather than send her back.
Well, if you want me to respond, to that, let me say to you, we were taken aback, and I'm being honest with you. We were taken aback when we saw this statement from Prime Minister MIA MOTTLEY. And let me say to you, in Guyana, we hold Prime Minister MIA MOTTLEY at a very high level. As we see her as one of the most influential persons in the Caribbean, with a lot of influence, and even further afield. I can go as far as telling you, I think it was about 3 years ago, or maybe 4 years ago, we were at a trade union conference, the ILO conference in Switzerland. At that conference, we recognized that 3 of our Caribbean leaders were coming to speak. Prime Minister MIA MOTTLEY was one. We had Prime Minister of Jamaica, and I can't remember somebody else. But it was at that same conference that Sir Roy Trotman was honored. However, when we decided there, the little Caribbean group, because when you look at what the delegates who were coming from South America and other parts of Asia and Africa and so on, we were a little tiny dot. But you know what? We decided then that when our Caribbean leaders come, we were going to stand and make noise just to let everybody know that we are a powerful group of people. So what I said on that program, it had nothing to do with being disrespectful to Prime Minister MIA MOTTLEY. And I should say to you that in Guyana, during the coalition's term of office, Prime Minister MIA MOTTLEY was presented with one of our highest national awards. So that should tell you how much love we have for Prime Minister MIA MOTTLEY. But then I don't know if I should say this, but I'm going to say it anyhow. We had our elections in 2020, and we had Prime Minister MOTTLEY, we had Prime Minister Rowley, we had Prime Minister Gonzalez, and a few others who came here when we were having a crisis. And they came because the president then, Mr. Granger, decided, look, since you were having lots of issues with the opposition then, they weren't agreeing with the count and so on. He said, look, I'm not going to be sworn in under these kinds of circumstances. I'm going to have a recount. And so Prime Minister MOTTLEY and a few others, they came, they had their meetings with the opposition and the government then, and they set out a draft plan of how the recount was going to take place and what are the steps that you're going to follow. That that's history now, because we understand what happened there, because only three aspects of the conditions there were looked at, but that's water under the bridge. And quite a lot of our people were upset with the way that whole issue was handled. But let me go forward. Prime Minister Mia Mottley come in here, and she offers words of comfort, advice, and everything else that is good you can think about. We've had, as a matter of fact, let me say, we have had a very, very close relationship with Barbados, and we still do have one. But when we, in this crisis that we are in at this time, we were expecting to hear from Prime Minister Mottley and others, look, we understand what is happening here because the evidence is clear. Everything is there to show this land mass that they're talking about, it belongs to Guyana. So when we heard the statement that Venezuela has been a good sister, a friend of Barbados, and Guyana and Venezuela should not make this Caribbean zone a war zone, something to that effect. We were taken aback, because if Venezuela is a sister to Barbados, then who is Guyana? And we've been exchanging all of the we have lands that were given to our brothers in Barbados for them to come and do farming in Guyana. We had an exchange of black belly sheep coming to Guyana in exchange for what we would have given. And so when we heard that statement, we were wondering, so who is Guyana to Barbados? We are having a crisis. Here is a huge country attacking a small state, and one of our Caribbean sisters standing there who we look up to as a big sister. And we're not hearing anything in terms of a statement coming from you in representation for us. And so my program that I host, I had to call out my sister, and I had to call out my brothers and let them know, you come to Guyana on normal basis. You come here, you mingled in what transpired during our elections, and here it is, we're having a crisis, and you are absolutely silent. And when you're not silent, you're saying, oh, Venezuela is a system.
Sister,
Man, we got to tell you, you're not welcome here any longer, because if you're going to allow people to take away another country, to take away our land that rightfully belongs to us, then you can't come here. You can't come.
yeah.
You see, the problem with the people in the Guyana and the rest of the Caribbean is that you all have been duped by Miss Mottley. Miss Mottley has no loyalty to anybody or to anything, not even to Barbados. I'm very sorry, but she's fooled you all, you know. And when I hear people, I mind you, she's very close to Jagdeo. So when you get her to help me, I know you're gonna lose. So you know, but when I heard that, I said, look, Granger gone. Even before a vote was counted, as I do not trust her as far as I can pelt her. She's fairly big, so I can get her thrown anywhere.
Wow.
You know.
Wow.
But you see, she goes there and she talks pretty. So people think that she's sincere. She's sincere about things. She just says what she thinks you want to hear at the time. And as you get to know her, and you will see that. But most of the time, it will be too late for you, and that is the problem. That's what's happening with you all now. You know, you don't see any loyalty. She don't stick to anything. She changes positions to suit the occasion. She doesn't say, well, look, this is my position, I'm going to stick with it. And I'm very sorry to tell you, but you all got tricked.
Yeah.
Well,
You know,
I think, let me say to you that the presence of Prime Minister Mia Mottley during that whole recount period, and Prime Minister Ralph Gonsalves, where I remember, and our Guyanese people don't forget, when he said to our president then, Mr. Granger, take your licks like a man. Concede, take your licks like a man. That doesn't resonate well with our people. And so now at this time when we're having a deeper crisis and they're silent, our people are going crazy. And you know, what I said there was actually what I was reading from, but I didn't put it over like that, what I was reading from the comments in our comment section that our viewers were sending. And our people were very, very angry that this is what this esteemed prime minister, who we look up to, this is what she's saying to us. And persons are saying, look, we were already plunged into one crisis, and now we're in another crisis and we're getting no help, then don't come here. And so I echo the same sentiments, because I am a Guyanese. I can't run to Barbados. I can't run to Trinidad. I can't run to St. Vincent. I have to live here. So when we have a crisis here, and you know, it seemed as if we were no longer counted as being part of CARICOM. Maybe we were just looked at as being part of South America. So let them try there. Let them don't make the Caribbean zone a war zone. Let them try there. That's the kind of message that came over to us.
I
And
see.
so
Now I understand what you're saying. Wow, that is, you know, I'm listening to you. I love Guyana, by the way, and you know, I've had other Guyanese on this program, and I'm very concerned about the race situation in Guyana. I have highlighted that several times on my program, and wondered why it is the rest of the Caribbean doesn't really care. To me, it seems like they don't care. And when I read that when I saw the article that said Venezuela has been a sister, and I'm been living here 22 years. I'm Jamaican living here. I'm like, when? It was just the other day I heard they were there was some oil deals that they were working on with Venezuela. You know, when did Venezuela? And so I'm saying, who is Guyana then? Some you know, long lost cousin, or not related, or you know. So I could
maybe
just
a
imagine.
Maybe a stepchild.
No, well,
So, you know,
I have two Guyanese children, so count me close to Guyana.
you know, you, Marcia, you took it out. You took exactly what I was going to say. Where all along we have been going and we've been exchanging ideas. We sit at CARICOM, and we have this present government that we have. They are one of the most discriminatory government and racist government that we've ever had in this country. The race divide is And you know what? Like you rightfully said, our CARICOM leaders, they sit there and they say nothing. When we look at the kind of discrimination that is being meted out to persons who are anti-government, you can't spell it. When you look at the awarding of contracts to the PPP acolytes, even if I could have the most modern of machines, but because I am anti-PPP, I will not get contracts when I make awards, when I put my bids in for those contracts. When we look at the manner with which persons are given jobs are given out in this country, when we look at the manner with which grants are being distributed in this country, you see, only if you're associated with the PPP, you get that. Just today, we were at a meeting and we were discussing one stronghold of the PPP. 23 streets were resurfaced in that community. And in the communities where there are Afro-Guyanese, you know what they did? One street or two streets. But in one village, let me say that in one village, 22 streets were done. Whether it needed resurfacing or it did not need, they were done over. But you had one and two streets in persons, in villages where they are predominantly Afro-Guyanese and where they are Guyanese who are not in support of this government. And it's not only Afro-Guyanese who are being marginalized. Our Amerindian brothers and sisters are being marginalized. As long as you're perceived to be anti-PPP, they cut you off. I can say further to you, we have our Amerindian brothers and sisters who live in one of our administrative regions, Region 8, the Potaro-Siperuni region. In Region 8, let me don't say Potaro-Siperuni because they can tell me something else. In Region 8, one settlement called Madia, one township. In that area, we have schools and we have a derm. And I'm sure you heard about the Durham fire that we had there, where 20 innocent lives were lost. And you know, those lives were lost because of incompetence, because there were several reports that highlighted that this dam is not safe. The dam should not be grilled. It is not safe. But nobody did anything. And so 20 lives were lost. Up to now, nobody is being held accountable except for that 15-year-old student whom they claim lit the fire. And I can go on and on to tell you that one of the ministers of government, a minister of government, it is alleged that he raped and sodomized a 15-year-old or 16-year-old. And that for him to resign, it had to take protest action across this country for that minister to resign.
Alleged, I saw the video. It wasn't an allegation. I saw the video. Someone sent it to me.
You know, and so these things are happening, but our CARICOM leaders, they sit quietly and they say absolutely nothing about it. But you know what they will tell you? Oh, I am not going to get involved in Guyana's internal affairs. But you could have gotten involved in other affairs. But in these affairs, you're not going to get involved in. And you know, I say this, and maybe that's why I'm not very popular among certain groups of people. But let me say this. I have to say what I have to say when it is wrong. If you are wrong, I will say it. And I want to say on this very program, in 2018, my party, the APNU, AFC, they were in government in 2018. And you know what? I led one of the largest strikes in this country. Our teachers, 100% support we got when we asked our teachers to close their doors because the government was not listening to us. They didn't want to sit at the table to negotiate with us. But you know, in 2021, when we're going through the same phase, and we took industrial action, you're hearing now that it's political because CORETTA is a PNC or APNU MP, so it's political. And I'm saying if it's not right, it's not right, regardless of who's governing the country. It's not right, and I will speak out against it because first and foremost, when it comes to matters of teachers or public servants, I will stand there to represent them because I'm a public servant first and the foremost.
Wow.
Marcia,
Yes,
you're
go
reading
ahead.
the comments? You're reading the comments?
Yes. They said CASWELL and CORETTA. They said CASWELL and CORETTA look like brother and sister and sound so too because that you know in Barbados, you know, remember we don't have anybody in we have nobody in opposition. Okay, try to imagine that there's none in the parliament and there's none in the Senate. People outside they cheer that on and they say go Mia, go Mia. But what they don't understand is that we in Barbados, for us it's tyranny. What happens is that decisions are made and then there's no consultation with the people. Things go through parliament so quickly. So Mr. Franklin is one of those voices that speak up, and he always says what is wrong is wrong, what is right, and he stands up for the people. So that's why they're saying that you guys are brothers and sisters. But let me ask you something though. You were saying on the video that there were certain concessions or agreements between Barbados and Guyana. And, the Guyanese are so upset by this comment. They're saying, come back, take back your black belly sheep. And, can you talk? And we're saying it as a joke, but it's really not funny because you were also saying that there were people in Guyana who were suffering as a result of some of these agreements in Barbados. Can you quickly tell us about that?
Well, let me say to you that our government, and like my colleague just said, Prime Minister MIA MOTTLEY is close friend with BARROW. And when I listen to you with the operations, the things that are happening in Barbados without any consultation and so on, we have the very things happening here. As a matter of fact, I can tell you, it is way up to the level of Parliament where the government, they have a one-seat majority. And they use that to the best of their ability. We can produce the best of debates in the Parliament. They use their one-seat majority to vote everything down or to vote on what they want to vote on. As a matter of fact, we meet in our parliament when the government run out of monies or when they overspend monies. We meet in Parliament for just to say that we went to Parliament and it has been approved. Whether you can lay all the evidence out, they have no business with that. They do whatever they feel like doing without consulting with the people. As a matter of fact, let me bring this to you. Just recently, well, I should say since 2020, the Guyana Teachers Union, we have submitted to this government our proposals for salaries and other welfare matters, salary increases. That agreement was supposed to span 2019, 2023. To date, we have had about 3 meetings with the government. And you know why we had those meetings? When we took actions and we had our teachers staying away from school one day, and we went out in front of the ministry to have a protest, and then we went in front of the Prime Minister's residence or the Ministry of Finance to have a little protest. Then they call you quickly, oh, let's have a meeting and let's talk, just as like Guyanese people would say, a sham, just to quiet things down. That has happened. The president about a month and a half ago, selected about 100 teachers from across this country. Mind you, we have just over 13,000 teachers in this country. They handpicked a couple of teachers, and when they handpicked those teachers, some of them were schooled and they were told what to say when they meet with the president. And the president met with them, and some of our teachers were told not to say anything that would offend the president. And coming out of that, the president said he had consultation with the teachers, and so he is going to award teachers some incentive. No talks with the union, even though there's a proposal out there. Let me go further to say to you, the president has stolen from our proposal some of the conditions that we are asking for. They tweeted them and they're now calling it what they are offering the teachers. And so from 2020 to now, there has been no negotiations with the union, with the teachers union, no negotiations with the public service union, but they have just been doing across the board increases, which is anti-democratic. And this government, they keep preaching that they're a democratic government. They're about democracy, and some of the same values that they're preaching and they're telling us about now are some of the same things that I hear Prime Minister Mottley talk about when she came to Guyana to talk about democracy, and we must allow democracy to rule. But we don't have that happening here. And so it was based on all of those backup, you know, people say you got things in your stomach long. It was based on all of that I had to say the things I said there. But again, let me say, I show no disrespect for the Prime Minister of Barbados. I have only love for her, but when it's wrong, somebody got to call our leaders out. Somebody got to call them. And if I'm the person to call them out, then I will do so. Because if you can't do wrong things or allow wrong things to happen and you turn a blind eye to it, or you conveniently choose to speak when you want to speak. But what I'm happy about, though, is that I saw a press conference with Prime Minister Mottley and Prime Minister Ralph Gonzalez and somebody else there. And I'm happy that she would have said at that press conference, after, of course, she said, CORETTA Mc Donald put lashes at her and so on. I'm happy that she said there that she wants to reassure the Guyanese that she's supporting us 150%. I'm happy that she was able to say that. And so I'm saying maybe if I didn't call her out, then we would not have gotten this statement from her. But I'm happy, and you know, our folks here, our people here are quite happy, because I've seen that press conference being shared all over, and people are saying, "Yeah, look, we getting somewhere." CORETTA put some lashes on the Prime Minister, and the Prime Minister responded. She's saying that she's reassuring us that they're supporting us. But this is what we want as CARICOM sisters. We must be there to shoulder each other, whether we like them or we don't like them. We must be there to shoulder each other, because we are all part of CARICOM. And I should hint to you this one to you. I mean, I talk a whole lot because I'm a teacher, but let me hint this one to you. We had our brothers from Asia here, not Asia, from Haiti. We had a whole lot of Haitians coming down here, males, females, and the children. You know what the government of Guyana did? They locked them up. They passed some of them through the courts, had them pay fines. Some of them they imprisoned some of them, and then they deported them to Haiti, deported them to where they came from. And they have instituted visa requirements for Haitians to come here. Mind you, again, we are all part of CARICOM, where we would have signed on to that treaty for free movement and all kind of thing. But that's what we did to our Haitian brothers and sisters from CARICOM. But you know what? We're allowing the Venezuelans to come into this country whenever, however, by how many numbers, but we're not doing the same things that we would have done to the brothers and sisters from Haiti. And you know what? CARICOM was almost silent. And even if they made a statement, you really didn't hear the statement. But nobody made an alarm about Guyana deporting Haitians back to their country. And that's the kind of racist government we have to deal with. You know what? The Haitians look like me and you. And I'm not being racist here by any chance. I'm saying what is the fact. Haitians look like me and you. The Venezuelans look like the people who are in government at this time. So they are bringing the Venezuelans here. They brought them here, or they allowed them to come here with one thing in mind. We are going to grant them ID cards and birth certificates so that they can vote at elections. But the Haitian brothers and sisters, we deported them. So it's a whole lot that is happening here.
Yeah, but I feel your pain and I hear you. You know, my heart goes out to you, and I want to assure you that I think the average Barbadian, they know that Guyana, the importance of Guyana to Barbados, and that relationship that we have. And what we want to caution you though, yes, you heard it in a press. You understand how these things go, but we just want to caution you that you might have heard it in a press statement, but it's only a statement. And so you got to watch the actions. That's important because these people will trick people, you know, because you have spoken out, and I commend you, woman. I commend you for speaking out for those who can't speak for themselves. You heard what the people were saying. There was a groundswell, and they were saying something, and you became the mouthpiece for that. And now they are listening. And I want to say to you, ma'am, please don't let up. Because the moment you let up, you know, don't let up. I'm sure you know that, you know. But what is it that you want? There's an agreement there between Barbados and Guyana, and you were talking about land. And can you explain that to us? And the Black Belly Sea. There's something there that you didn't think it was equitable because you felt Guyanese, the average Guyanese, were not benefiting. Can you speak about that?
Well, let me tell you what. The ordinary Guyanese citizen, for you to acquire a piece of land in Guyana, it would cost you $1.5 million. And you can do the calculation, the calculations. It will tell you how much it would be in Bajan dollars. It would cost you $3 million, $3.5 million, and it's very, very difficult for the ordinary man to be able to acquire a piece of land in a residential area to build a house, or to acquire a piece of land to do farming. But here it is, Barbados was given a whole lot of land. And so we were bringing Bajans to Guyana to do farming, and whatever crops they were going to plant there. But whatever they were going to do here in Guyana, it was not going to be to the benefit of our Guyanese people. And so what we got in exchange for that was black belly sheep from Barbados. The sheep that came here, don't talk about the distribution. It was given to what we call the 3 Fs: family, friends, and the favorite. And so Guyanese were quite upset when we heard that land was given to Barbados for them to come here, for Bajans to come here and do farming. Mind you, we have no difficulty with our brothers and sisters from Barbados. But if you're going to give land to foreigners, quote unquote, let me say that, then you should be able to give rightfully to us land because we live here. And it should not be difficult for persons living here to acquire a piece of land. Yes, we share a very tight bond, let me say that, with Barbados. And if we go right back to the days of our founder leader, Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham, who was the first executive president for this country, you would understand how far we went because we had Eric Williams and we had Errol Barrow. You remember that?
Yes.
And so we went way back. And for us to now come to this point, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, and maybe some years before the 2015, 2020 period, where, very cozy relationships were established between the Jagbio government then and Prime Minister Mia Motley. And maybe it's a continuation from 2020 onwards. But you cannot be so unrealistic to Guyanese people. Your eyes in Guyana, we say your eyes can't pass us so much to want to bypass us and give other people land and not give to us. The Chinese have come here, they're getting concessions upon concessions upon concessions. And the ordinary citizen in Guyana, you can't acquire those same concessions. And so, like you rightfully said, the swell has been there. And it's only for this well to burst. And like everything else, somebody has got to speak for those who can't speak for themselves.
Yes. Go ahead,
Marcia, I'll tell you something. I'm sitting here and I'm listening to Ms. McDonald and I'm saying, oh God, Guyana, the government of Guyana and the government of Barbados are using the same playbook. You see how they took the 100 teachers and discussed, they did that all over the place. They did it with me when I sent proposals for the nurses. They took my proposals, gave them to a couple of nurses to read. They couldn't explain them, and then they agreed to them. And I made an announcement that they agreed to these proposals submitted by somebody else. They were my proposals coming from my union. So they're parallel. They're doing the same thing. They go to Parliament.
Somebody learning from somebody.
Yes. They go to Parliament. I was a member of the Senate. You will see a bill tonight at 10 o'clock. And then you get it to go to BARROW or whatever. You look at your email, you see a bill for the first time. And they can debate it that next morning. And all you protest, they're just doing, I think they like to sit down together and plan how they're going to deceive the people of their countries. They're doing the same things. Dominica, Barbados, St. Vincent, Guyana. It seems as though they plot these things and they try to make sure that the people of the country don't have a say. Even you talk about roads. If you go outside my house now, and you will see all the other roads were fixed except the one to my gap. They fixed all. So you're talking. They're doing the same things. And I'm here sitting down saying, Lord, this is the same thing. You could scratch. What you have said. You could scratch Guyana off and put Barbados, and it would be true.
Yeah.
It is amazing.
It's amazing and it's disgusting.
And I can tell you something else. I'm very proud of you, because Miss Molly is a coward. If you stand up to her, she tries to backpedal and change subject matter. Oh, we agree with you. She will not agree with you. She is saying so to keep away from criticism. She does not like criticism. I know because I criticize her a lot. And so far she's offered me 4 jobs. Because I'm looking for a job. The best job in the world is being a trade unionist. And so I don't know why you would think that I want to change that from that to something else. But she's offered me 4 jobs. So the same thing is happening.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you, in Guyana, of course, the PPP, because they know the kind of influence I have and how, let me say, I'm going to beat my own drum here. They know how powerful I am in this country. So they offered me to be on their list when they were campaigning for national elections? And I told them absolutely no. I gave them a resounding no, because let me tell you what, the PDP's government is very corrupt, and we've experienced that 23 years before 2015. They're very divisive, they're discriminatory, and they don't want anybody who can stand up to them. So I said, and outside of that, they have no respect for women. And I have no apologies for saying that. They have no respect for women, and they have no respect for people who don't look like them. And we can go on to talk about all the murders and the drug bust in Guyana, and all the kinds of things that are happening in Guyana. But I guess we'll leave that for another forum.
Yes.
But I can tell you.
No, again, you've said parallel. She offered to put you on her list. She offered me to run for St. Thomas. You know, it is amazing. They're doing the same thing. They want to neutralize people who will stand up. And I'm glad that you are not buckling.
Well, you know, I'm seeing a question there from Sphere 4.
Right. Thank you so much. Thank you.
I am not. I can't tell you about this naval base that the U.S. that is alleged to have been planned or something like that. We heard little bits of that the coalition government that was led by Mr. David Granger, that he was approached to have some base built somewhere there so that they can spy over to Venezuela and so on. And he said, no, I am not. I can't say whether that is true or not. Those are things that we heard, by the way. And because he said to them, no, he's not going to allow it, they were part and parcel of removing the coalition government from office, the coalition party from office. But I'm not sure whether that there's any naval base that is here or that has been planned. But again, let me say to you, I'm not going to put my neck on a block. And if you understand what that means, I'm not going to put my neck on a block, because the way this government operates, our government, you wake up, you go to sleep 5 minutes after you're up, and you see something happening, or you hear about something. So I wouldn't want to put my neck on a block to say maybe it's not there, or it is there, or there are plans to have it there. It could be. But you know what we found very surprising is the fact that during the 5 years in government of the coalition party, we hadn't this kind of aggression coming from Venezuela. We hadn't that. What we have seen as of August 2nd, 2020, when the PPP government were installed in office, after then we saw Venezuela kicking up, if I can use those words. And then you had all these, flying here and people seeing their planes flying, and then they're seizing equipment. And so I don't know whether there was some agreement between the PPP government saying to Venezuela, well, look, we'll give you a part or something like that. And so the Venezuelan government are holding to that. No, I don't know. But what I know is that there is on record where Barrett Javier said that we could consider giving a channel to the Venezuelans. One part of Guyana, we could consider giving a channel. So I don't know if those statements or that statement has now led Venezuela to believe that indeed the Guyanese people know that they have robbed us of our land and they're considering to give us a channel. So we're accepting it now and we're agitating for it. I don't know. But it is serious, and we are concerned about this whole situation, this crisis that is now before us. And we're looking forward, and we've been saying to this government, you need to tell us, the opposition. Let me go to this. Let me tell you this before I say what I'm saying. Just about 2 weeks ago, we sat in Parliament, the leader of the opposition and his MPs. We sat in Parliament, and before we went to Parliament, the leader of the opposition said to the president of Guyana, the opposition is in full support with you on this whole matter of our territorial, this territorial controversy that we're having. Essequibo belongs to us, and we are with you on this. So Call us in at the meetings. We will share our expertise with you. We will loan to you whatever resource we have, because I can tell you, when this whole thing happened, and many years after, it was the PNC party that was in office, and our ministers there were the persons, and other persons in the Foreign Service were the folks there who crafted one of the documents. So we understand the entire story, and that is my party. And so we would have said to them, look, we are ready to work with you. You need to tell us how many Venezuelans we have in this country. Where are these Venezuelans? And we need to monitor their activities, what they're doing, where they're going. We need to screen these people to find out whether we have military personnel coming into this country to spy or to sort out where they can attack from if they're going to do that. We need to find out who are teachers, who are doctors, whatever their profession is, whether they're criminals or what. Let's screen these people. We can't get those kinds of information from the government as yet. As a matter of fact, the Minister of Foreign Affairs said to my colleague who is shadowing Foreign Affairs, if you want to get that kind of information, just the same way we got it from the immigration office, you can get it. But you and I know that when you make a call to them, to the officers there, they will tell you, well, we have to seek permission. And there is no permission that will be granted to the opposition, because they don't want us to know how many Venezuelans we have in this country. But we've been saying to the people of Guyana, because the Venezuelans are spread all across this country, Guyana, we've been saying to our folks, monitor them. Let's watch them to see what they're doing, the homes that they're living in, and they're renting homes. Our police have intercepted Venezuelans with guns, not one, not two, not three, with guns. They've intercepted them with cocaine, with marijuana. And so that's the kind of thing we're having in this country. As a matter of fact, we have seen videos circulating where Venezuelans are assaulting our army ranks. We've seen videos just last weekend, I think it was, just this weekend or a couple of days ago, we saw a video with one of our Guyanese taxi driver where he was assaulted by a group of Venezuelans. As a matter of fact, he had huge cuts on his hands that required 8, 9, 10 stitches. They attempted to saw his neck off because they wanted to steal his car. And the story went on to say that the man played dead, and that's how they left him. And the man was able to get help. He's in hospital right now, nursing that wound on his neck. Good luck for him. It didn't go down too deep. And that's what we are faced with in this country. And we have to be concerned. We have to worry when our Caribbean brothers and sisters don't make statements for us. So you can understand why, when I made those statements on my program, why I made those statements, because somebody must come to our rescue. Somebody must talk for us. People who we consider to be brothers and sisters in CARICOM and in Latin America, but more so CARICOM, they must speak up for us.
Yeah.
But that is what is happening here.
You ever consider that those Guyanese are sleepers? They are, those Venezuelans are sleepers. They are there for when the action starts, that they'll be right in the thick of things. They are going to be. They will invade from within. So they might very well be soldiers.
Yeah.
These are very things that the government should be mindful of, and to check these people. But unfortunately, if you have a government that is not loyal to your country, because ours isn't either, they're just loyal to themselves and they're loyal to the amount of money that they can make, then you will have difficulties. You will find yourself speaking Spanish just now, because they will sell you out.
Well, let me tell you, the president of Guyana, just before school reopened on September 6th, he made an announcement that Spanish will now be compulsory in schools. And so we're saying, but wait, how are we going to have Spanish compulsory in schools, teachers teaching Spanish, when there was no program No program in terms of teaching the teachers the language. And I had to say to I had to say on one of my programs that the president himself doesn't understand what he's saying, because for youth, Spanish is not a subject that you can go and write on the chalkboard and people copy and they learn Spanish. It's an interactive subject. And so you have to train the trainers who will now use the knowledge gained there, and being able to speak the language, to now be able to teach that to the students and the pupils in school. But,
Yeah.
In Barbados, we call that education reform. They're doing the same nonsense here too. They come up with a clear blue sky and saying, "Oh, this is what we want to do." You know, no planning, no costing, no anything.
Listen, we're really sisters. We're really sisters. Listen, the same thing. But you know, we thank you. So we're twins. So thank you so much. You know, for being here. Honorable CORETTA McDonald. I am just so proud of you as you're standing up, and it's inspiring, is what I need to say. It's very inspiring because, as you know, we do not have any opposition, and so what we try to do is to encourage the people that they would speak. We say to them, speak up. Speak up, you are the opposition. And when we heard you, we said, yes, somebody else is doing that, you know. And so we it really touched us. And we would love for you to be able to come back to speak with us a bit more on this issue.
Sure.
We want to know more.
Sure.
We want to know. Tell us what's happening, okay?
Anytime we can talk about what's happening in our education system to see if it mirrors. We can talk about what's happening in our healthcare system. We can talk so much about what's happening in the public service, because I can tell you, our public servants here are suffering. As a matter of fact, they are awaiting the imposition that we'll receive very shortly from the president of this country. And you know, while they're going to tell us, well, look, we're going to give you an 8% salary increase, everything in the marketplace will go up 25%. And nobody seems to be concerned about how the little man is making out, or how the ordinary man is making out in this country. And very often I would say on my program, I want to have the ministers of government and the president exchange their salaries with some public servants, some teachers, some nurses for 1 month. And let's see how they'll be able to rally out on that meager salary that public servants and ordinary citizens have to live on.
Yes,
they will survive because they get most of their salaries under the table.
But you know, that's a whole nother discussion. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Honorable CORETTA McDonald, for coming, and we are truly inspired by you, and we are going to keep talking. Okay, God bless you.
Thank you so much for having me on your program, and I trust that God is going to bless you folks too. We'll continue to live in love. I want Prime Minister Mia Mottley to know that we have no hate in our heart for her, but we just want to say the things. When they are wrong, we will call them out. When they are right, we will commend them. But we have nothing but love for her, nothing but love for Mr. Prime Minister Gonzalez. But we have to do the right things. Right things cannot be done conveniently. It must be consistent.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. God bless you, ma'am.
You're welcome. And good night to all my Bajan friends, because I have lots of friends who are teachers there, who are in the teachers union and all of that. Good night to all of you.
Yes. God bless you. God bless you. We love you. God bless. Bye-bye. Oh, that was really wonderful. Really wonderful.
An eye opener.
Yes, it was. Well, we have with us here tonight attorney DAVIDA Maynard-Holligan, and she's going to give an official response, Praise Academy giving an official response to the NCF, and of course to the we say to the Gregory Nichols, but it's really to NCF. Welcome, DAVIDA. Welcome.
Hello, good night.
Can you speak? Can you speak again, please?
Good night.
Right. I just want to check your audio levels. Okay. Right.
I seem to be delayed.
Yes, there's a delay, and it could be because of your background, because you have a background, I know, but the background will slow you down a little bit. But I understand, but there's a delay. But can you say something again? Let's see if it's improved.
Good night, Mr. Franklin. How are you doing tonight?
Oh, I'm wonderful still.
Wonderful. Good. All
Okay.
right. Well,
Right. So we're still seeing the delay. The delay is still there, but we're gonna proceed unless you want to go and if you and try to remove the background. I don't know if that's gonna work,
okay.
but
Let me try for a sec. I will try to blur the back.
okay. Yes. And see, she's probably using up bandwidth, Mr. Franklin there, but I thought that was very enlightening, and I'm gonna yes. Yes, it's a delay. It's a delay. Very true. Very true. There's a delay. Mr. Franklin, I know that. Let's see if let's. Okay, she's coming back in, and let us test now. Yes, Davida. Good evening. Let's hear you.
Good
Let's
evening.
try.
Is this better now? Is this better now?
There's a delay. What happens because you have a background on? It's using up your bandwidth. Okay. So if you were able to not have any background, then that's fine. If you can't, then that's okay. If you can't.
One more try then. One more try. One
Okay.
more
So
try.
and when you try again, can you go out and come back in? Okay. All right. Thank
Okay.
you. Just leave and come back in. Thank you so much. Yes, Mr. Franklin. You know. I listened to Guyana. I listened about Guyana there. It really, I'm saying it just kind of mirrors what is happening here in Barbados, and you're wondering if there is a plan. What's the plan there between all of these different leaders? What's going on?
LGBT.
Mm,
You know, it's happening
wow.
again too, right? At the
Oh
highest
wow.
level.
Oh, so that's what they have in common.
Yeah, and they have actually legalized these relationships long ago, actually. When you had the president with a boyfriend, you had to, you couldn't very well not legalize them.
Mm. Oh,
So,
you mean at years ago?
yes.
Years ago. So that's it. That's an allegation that it's at the top. At the top. Okay.
So so as we are going down the same road, the same issues, doing it the same way. God help us. But
Yeah.
before the visa comes back, and I don't want to steal any her thunder, but this morning I would have sent you a WhatsApp message I got from a lawyer, a very prominent lawyer in Barbados, and he said to me that Gregory Nichols is a lawyer for the National Cultural Foundation. If that is the case, he should not have been the person who is doing um, being the arbiter, because you would not be a judge in your own cause. That is something that we have to look into. And if
So
he
you're
if
you're
he if he
saying
in
you're
fact
saying he is a lawyer for the NCF.
I understand that he's retained by the NCF as one of their lawyers, and if that is in fact the case, he should know better. And if you look at the decision that he gave,
Hmm.
it did not address not anything that we are talking about. He he just said things to the effect, "Oh, you knew what you were getting into, basically." Yeah, and if my information is correct, and I have no reason to doubt this lawyer, but if it is correct, we need to do something. And I say we need to do something about this, because it can't stand. It cannot stand. We
Hmm.
have. I remember he was um, lawyer for the transport board too, and that was another set of issues.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, Davida, we're going to get back to that, Mr. Franklin. We want to get into that a bit more. Davida, good evening again. Attorney, can you hear us? Okay, so okay, let's unmute your mic. I think you're going to be just fine now. Okay, so unmute. You're still muted, so we needed to unmute. Okay, so it's not okay. So you have to unmute your mic. So okay, somebody's saying confirming that he is their lawyer. Someone is confirming that, Mr. Franklin. Okay, so I don't understand why. Come on, she's going to speak tonight. Come on, those who need to pray, pray, because she's speaking tonight. See if you can open that microphone, Davida.
She's gone out to come back as well.
Yes, so continue speaking, Mr. Franklin.
So this is simple. Bias doesn't have to be actual. It just has to be apparent. If it appears that you are biased, then you should not be a judge in that matter. It goes, and it is sort of, I remember years ago we had the Pinochet case in the courts in the United Kingdom. Pinochet, Lord Hoffman, who was one of the lords, he sat on that case, and the House of Lords for the first time reversed itself because Lord Hoffman gave money to Amnesty International.
I'm good.
Oh, we can hear. Yeah. Okay.
So,
yeah.
So let's hear her, because they want to hear her more. They want to hear me.
Yes. No, but we will have time to talk afterwards. Okay. Before we go into something else. Okay. So let's go right into Miss Maynard-Holligan. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you. Good night to all. Good night to the opposition. Tonight I'm here in my capacity as counsel for the Praise Academy of Dance. And I am here really to make a response to the recent decision, because the way the decision was framed warrants a response. Hello, yes. Okay.
So can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
Okay. Yes, we're hearing you. Listen, we this gonna happen tonight. So go right ahead. I'm going to just come off the stage so that you're allowed to just speak. Okay. So when I leave, then you just go ahead and make the statements. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Go right ahead.
Okay. Good night to all once again. I am going to be reading a written statement.
Okay, she is stuck. Davida is stuck. All right, she's not moving there.
Yeah, she's frozen.
She's frozen. We are going to get this done. That's correct, Trevor Seeley. It is going to happen. There'll be no interference. There will be no, those of you who know how to pray, you pray. There won't be any interference. Yeah, yes. Just bear with us, folks. Bear with us. It's us. This is the opposition. Are you going to bear with us? It's going to work tonight. It is going to work tonight. Okay, so she is back. Hi, DAVIDA. It's gonna go. Go right ahead. Go right ahead.
Okay. I'm not sure what has just happened, but I'm proceeding. All right. Um, as I was saying, this response is warranted because the structure of the written judgment has been misleading to the people of Barbados, and so I shall now give my response. The current pomp parading by the NCF of its arbiter's decision dated November 16, 2023 is a display by which the Barbadian public, taking the decision at face value, would be entirely deceived. The disqualification of the Speak Life piece of the Praise Academy of Dance by the NCF or NIFCA on October 27, 2023 was stated on the basis that the piece was in breach of Section 9B of the rules and was in poor taste. A fuller explanation of the grounds of breach was stated in the ruling of the arbiter as denouncing various gender identities of the LGBTQ plus community via ranging characterizations and expressions, or, in my words, as discriminatory to the LGBTQ plus community. The piece Speak Life is a piece based entirely on science and the Holy Scripture. The piece explores the different biological, chromosomal makeup of male and female. It presents a Christian viewpoint of gender identity and sexual orientation, and on this basis declares from a Christian worldview that there are two genders only. The disqualification by the NCF of this piece on the grounds of discrimination therefore amounts to a ban of the expression of the Christian faith as it relates to topics of gender and sexual identity on a government-owned, tax-funded NIFCA or NCF stage, and marks one of the first known instances of the oppression of the manifestation of the faith in Jesus Christ in Barbados. I just want us to really take this in, the importance of what has happened. It was the argument of the Praise Academy of Dance before the arbiter that the decision of the NIFCA judging panel was illegal and unconstitutional. The arbiter rightly held that he has no jurisdiction to rule on the constitutionality of the decision by the NIFCA panel. In fact, he went further to state that he would not be saying that it was discriminatory or it wasn't discriminatory. He would not be saying that it was constitutional or it was unconstitutional. That is for the court to determine. Those were the words of the arbiter. Unfortunately, Mr. Nichols did not leave the matter there. Instead, he decided to make a decision not on whether Praise Academy of Dance's work was disqualified rightfully or wrongfully, but as to whether the NIFCA or NCF judging panel was within the NCF or NIFCA rules, regardless of whether those rules are illegal. In taking this route, the arbitration became an exercise in futility. This matter was one to be left to the Supreme Court of Barbados. Rather, there is the misleading statement that the arbiter has not found any basis to overturn the decision of the judges splashed all over the Barbadian media. In light of the arbiter's lack of jurisdiction to deal with the real substance of the case before him, the arbiter had no proper basis to affirm the NCF decision in the way that he has done. Indeed, it is my opinion that in the written judgment, it should have been expressly stated what jurisdiction was exercised and what limitations existed. What is most unpleasant about this pomp parade, though, is the eagerness of the NCF or NIFCA to claim victory, even if it allows the understanding of the truth of the matter to be twisted and people to be misled. In my opinion, it is a shameful day for the National Cultural Foundation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Davida Maynard-Holligan. Thank you so much for your statement. And I know that you are rushing off, and we're hoping to have you back at some point. But I know tonight was a quick come and go for you, and we appreciate what you have said, and we do hope that people will listen carefully to what you said, and as my grandmother would say, pick sense out of nonsense. So thank you so much for being on. We appreciate it. Thank you. Yes, God bless. Thanks. Caswell, your mic is
no, she said something that puzzled me, because any minister, magistrate, tribunal, if a constitutional point is raised, they must stand down. But look, you remember during the cases with the Hawksworth deportation, and I remember again, I think it was Hal Gollop who was the lawyer. Every time he made a constitutional point, I think it was Nichols who was the magistrate, said, well, he can't hear that. It got to go to the court. And he had to stand down and wait for the court ruling. In this case, what the NCF should have done when you raise a constitutional point, because no arbiter, no magistrate, no minister can rule on a constitutional point. And I believe Mr. Nichols, as a lawyer, he said that he's a good lawyer, but I would, but that's his opinion of himself, so I'm not going to be too worried about him. But he should have said, well, look, since the applicant has made a constitutional point, we will have to refer this to the High Court, to the court to deal with it. And that, I think that's Rule 61 of the rules of the court. But I remember citing it in the case that I had with Pedro Shepherd, when I ruled that the Constitution allowed him to run. The lawyer who chaired that tribunal agreed and decided, but then we didn't end up going to court because there was a similar case before the court, and they waited until that decision from the court to decide if the point was valid. And then in the end, Pedro Shepherd walked free. You see, so I think Mr. Nichols should know that. I think it is basic law. It's not something I go to law school for, because I went to law school and I knew it. So so that troubles me. And I see the thing is, I am wondering now if the decision was to just to get rid of you, rather than, I hope that you would go away, rather than deal with the substance of your application, because I didn't see from what the thing I saw in the newspaper that there was any substance to the decision. It was a lawyer playing he was pompous and writing nonsense. They feel, a lot of lawyers feel like they're God's gift and that they know more law than everybody else. And quite frankly, they mislead a lot of people. I don't know that if he is God's gift, I certainly not the legal profession. It might be the God's gift to something else.
Yeah. You know, I was looking, because I don't know much of him, you know, but I
No
was doing a
loss.
little research. I was doing a little research, and I saw something here, but I don't know. You know, I'm trying to this is him, isn't it? Is this
Yes,
the
that's him.
attorney here?
Yes, that's the man.
And he is wearing a BLP you know, jacket or shirt.
He's also a BLP senator. You would recall when Kof when they tried to install him in the Senate, and it was determined, he's too young. And Motley was saying that she wanted to get youth. That's why she introduced Kof. So when Kof being 21 was too young, bit or under 21, whatever the case may be. So when he couldn't be appointed, she brought this 40-year-old youth instead and put him in the Senate in Kof place when she wanted youth. So that's just to show that you don't mind the actions. The situation of he's a senator in the a government senator. He is hoping to run in St. Thomas, the seat I rejected. And my understanding and the information that I have received is that he's also a lawyer for the National Cultural Foundation. If that is the case, this thing it's atrocious, you know. What should be happening now is that you should be doing an urgent application before the court, because you cannot behave in this manner and walk book Barbados, thumping your chest and feel that you can get away with anything. And I'm relying on what was said to me by one of his colleagues, that he is a lawyer for the, and you would have seen the WhatsApp message that I got. I sent it to you.
Yeah, because
right? Let me read this thing for you.
Yes.
The rules of the court. It says this part deals with the way in which the High Court or the Court of Appeal determines a case stated. 1. A question of law referred to it by a minister, magistrate, judge, or a tribunal or any other person. And then it goes on to say, or an application for or the minister or magistrate, whatever else. So any question of law that comes up before you, he can't deal with it because he does not. He's not the High Court. So a question of constitutional law, only the court can deal with it. So when Halligan says that it was unconstitutional and stuff, that is when he should have stopped. He shouldn't have gone further. And I don't like the idea, because I am a trained arbitrator. A lot of people might not know this, but the ILO trained me, and and they taught me how to do it. You agree on the arbitrator. It is abnormal for you to have an arbitrator. They call him the arbiter, but an arbitrator that isn't agreed by both parties. And then what happens when you decide that you can go into arbitration? You are bound by the decision of the arbitrator. So it don't go to any court unless there was his ruling had some point of law that you disputed. But you don't dispute the actual decision unless it was something that offended the law. But so they had their own man, they picked their own man, and they said, well, he's the arbiter, and you know what should really happen is that you should have had a say into who that person is. They should at least have a list and say, well, look, these are the people who do arbitrations and stuff. Could you speak and we can settle on one of them? But you don't announce pompous. I mean, Senator Nichols. I was going to call him pompous thing, but I realized it was on the show. And he decides that he's all knowing and dismiss. I'm not as serious as this, you know.
Yeah.
But they're playing with the Motley playbook. So
yeah. But you know, we're going to come back to this, guys. We have to come back. So I want you to stay locked on, because I found, you don't have to comment on this yet, Mr. Franklin, but you will have some time to look into it. I found an article here. If you say this is him, because I don't know, I'm the new kid on the block.
That is him.
Uh, that's him, but theirs was according to the newspaper, the Nation News, that this attorney was taken to court for $9,500. This was an article in the Nation newspaper, and I'm trying to see the date, January 29, 2015. But look into this, and we're going to discuss this a little bit more. You know, when we get back, when we come back in, because as I didn't go looking for this, but I was looking for his name, and this came up. So if you can shed some light on it for me, I would really appreciate it.
I have a lot of light. I have a lot of light for that one.
Right, just you hold it, because we have Dr. West is here from Jamaica, and we're going to talk with him, and then we're going to go back to this. So those of you, I know you're logged on to hear about Praise Academy and what happened with the NCF, and the fact that they have upheld the decision and have we remain disqualified, and you know, and all the allegations against us that you know, we were up to now, actually they haven't even said what lines in the production was you know, was a poor taste. You know, they said that we denounce various genders, which it is true that we only have two genders, and we don't take that back. You know, we can't take it back, because we are it's based on the Bible, and it's based on science. We have to let them know there will always be two for us, okay, male and female. So we can't do anything about that. If that's what you said, to say that we did it aggressively, you know, we don't know anything about any aggression. The children did it in love and passion. You know, they spoke in love and passion from their hearts, and with the tone that was necessary, with care in those sections, because that's how they're trained. It's a theater piece. So sometimes their voices are high, sometimes the voice is low, and it's medium to convey the message. And NIFCA knows that. That's how theater is. You know, that's the power of theater. You're going to use your voice in various ways. And but we're going to come back to this a little bit more. But let me invite Dr. West to join us at this time. He is Trinidadian and lives in Jamaica.
That's correct.
Yes, sir. Good night. Good night. Good night. We're so happy to have you, and we want to thank God for you, Philippa Davis, and for your organization in Jamaica, JCHS.
Yeah.
JCHS.
That's
Yes?
correct.
Yes. And can you first of all welcome, and can you tell us a little bit about your organization?
Okay, good night. Good night. Can you hear me just from the technical aspect of things? Are you hearing me clearly?
Very clear, loud and clear. It's
All right,
beautiful.
fine. Because sometimes I find when you put on the earphones, people don't hear for various reasons. So it's good that you can hear me. Okay,
Yes.
well, I am a Trinidadian. I did medicine in Jamaica. I came here to do medicine in Jamaica in 1976. I met a Jamaican lady, got married to her, but that's not the reason why I am in Jamaica, because I did go back to Trinidad and then I came up to Jamaica to do postgraduate work. The Jamaica Coalition for Healthy Society. We are Christian people, persons who pay attention to the impact of worldview. Your worldview is the lens through which you see the world. And we are firmly convinced as Christians that the biblical worldview, the worldview that says, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth, that the earth and the heavens were not always here, and that God created man and woman. People didn't come by evolution. We disagree with that. There's no one can cite a single instance of an organism arising by evolution. So we don't accept that as a fact. Our worldview start in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. and also that God created man and woman, male and female, and that God is the basis for morality, and that laws must be rooted in sense and logic, and that the biblical worldview provides the basis for human rights, because in the biblical worldview, all human beings are made in the image of God. That is the basis for human rights, that all human beings, irrespective of who you are, etc., you are made in the image of God, and that is the basis for you having value and human rights. The other consideration for human rights is that behaviors must be consistent with design and purpose in the natural order of the universe for it to be a human right, or to be considered for being a human right. So if someone wants to drink coffee through their nostril, we don't consider that as a basis for human rights. We agree with Aristotle that law must be based on reason, free of passion. What we are seeing in Western democracies is law based on passion, absolutely free of reason, and which is why, for example, you are having the problem you are having in Barbados, because clearly those people who are making that determination about the number of genders, quote unquote, are making law and public policy based on passion or desire, absolutely free of reason. So the Jamaica Coalition for a Healthy Society is committed to defending the biblical worldview as the most sensible, the one that allows human flourishing, and challenges, and we challenge alternatives, which are really based on passion and not based on sense at all. So that's what we do in Jamaica.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the work you've been doing there. And I know that Philippa, who was on our program, on Friday, she's also from your organization, an attorney, because you're made up of doctors and attorneys primarily. Is that it?
No, not primarily, but there are doctors and attorneys. Doctors, my wife is a doctor, and there are other doctors in the organization, and attorneys, but there are persons who are business people, teachers, lecturers in tertiary institutions who are not medical doctors or attorneys.
Yes. Wow, that's powerful, and the fact that, I mean, for us in Barbados, we look at it and we say, wow, that's so awesome that you have such you have strong lawyers there who are studying and studying what is going on, and looking at what is wanting to come in to the country and being able to push it away. Philippa Davis, she was actually on one of our mainstream media today because they saw our program, and that's a good thing. She was on Friday, and so they picked up on that and brought her to mainstream media on today, and she was very powerful on there as well. But before we go into the Samoa Agreement, although I see the connection between what is happening in Barbados with Praise Academy and the signing, Barbados agreeing, telling the people, yes, they signed the agreement. I see a connection there, but a Praise Academy in Jamaica, because there is a branch of Praise Academy in Jamaica. It was founded in Jamaica, and then the Praise Academy Barbados was started I think it's 22 years ago here in Barbados. The work of Praise Academy, what happens there with Praise Academy in Jamaica, and when you heard of what happened with the theatrical piece in Barbados, that the piece was disqualified, what's your take on it in a general sense? I know you weren't there, but in your general sense, knowing the content of the piece, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think it's to be expected from the part that Barbados is taking. Barbados is clearly allowing the secular worldview to dominate its law and public policy and public sphere as well. And we know that when that happens, as in places like the United States or the United Kingdom and so on, The people who support the secular worldview, it usually manifests as support for a really nihilistic and anarchist approach to sex. What do I mean by that? That everything is permissible, people must be able to do whatever they want, they're not accountable to anyone, and not only to sex, but to gender identity, that you can be a man and identify as a woman, or you can have as many as 100 different gender identities. And anyone who goes against that narrative is going to be cancelled, meaning that just as you at Praise Academy was cancelled in Barbados, you will not be allowed to say those things in public. You will be suppressed in various ways. There's an example, for example, I think I heard Philippa give this one of a Finnish member of parliament who simply disagreed with homosexuality and quoted biblical verses. You will expect that that sort of thing will not be tolerated in the public square. So more and more you will find that, this is to be expected, that as Barbados allows the secular worldview to displace the biblical worldview as the basis for its laws and public policies, freedom of speech in Barbados with respect to things related to sex and gender identity will be suppressed. And that's why, like I said, that's why the Praise Academy, what they offered was rejected, because you are not allowed to criticize what the secular people support. You're going to be punished one way or the other. Praise Academy has been denied, their entry has been denied, they cannot perform it. And you will find that they're going to be pushing these things in schools, and if parents protest, the parents are going to be punished in some way, or the teachers are going to be punished in some way, because these things are totally intolerant of alternative position. So I'm not surprised about what happened in Praise Academy at all. We could have told Barbados that as long as you go that route, you will meet this sort of phenomena, and it's going to get worse.
Yeah. You know, you said it's going to get worse, and you know, because and I'm thinking about that, because what was said in the piece is what a pastor would say on a pulpit. You know, what a science teacher would teach in a school. And so I'm wondering in terms of the church, because we have not had as Praise Academy, I'm the artistic director for Praise Academy, and we've had one pastor actually who after a week and so on, after it happened, probably near 2 weeks after it occurred, we heard from one pastor, and I called that pastor. You know, we have not heard anything from the church community, etc., because somehow you know, Dr. West, there is a feeling that that's just for Praise Academy, that just for that institution. It has nothing to do with us, and it's nothing to do with us. You know, what would you say to the church concerning that approach?
Well, I must say that in Jamaica, the churches in Jamaica, in the main, have taken us well. We in our group, the Jamaica Coalition for Healthy Society, we had ongoing contact with the churches, letting them be aware of these issues. And our church leaders have responded in the main very, very, very well. They made it clear, for example, in 2014, there was a huge march in Halfway Tree, which is sort of like the middle of Kingston. There were maybe over 40,000 persons came out of that to make it clear to the government of the day that we were not going to accept this LGBTQ plus ideology, because it is an ideology. It is a political ideology, just as communism is a political ideology, and you should be free to accept it or reject it. But what has happened is that using the courts and activist judges and so on, it is being imposed on the society. But our church leaders have made it clear from the get-go that they want no part, they don't want this to be imposed on the children of Jamaica. And so, because the church actually is the largest constituency of voters in any island, in any Caribbean island, it is really the responsibility of the church to take a stand on this. And you would think that the church would take a stand in defense of the biblical worldview, It's disappointing that that doesn't seem to be the case in Barbados, but I must say, in Jamaica, we have good support from the church. Our church leaders make this point that they stand for the biblical worldview, and that this other worldview, this secular worldview, is nonsense. I mean, this thing about a man can become pregnant and have a baby and all this other thing. This is just straight nonsense. But the church has to take a stand so that the government is aware that there's a political price to pay for going this route. And if the church doesn't take that stand and make that point clear to the government that you will pay a political price if you go the route that men can be women and there are 100 genders and all these things, these people need to be treated sympathetically. They are psychologically and mentally ill. So we're not suggesting that you abuse them, but you don't go making law to consolidate nonsense. So, for example, I just give you examples. Like I said, suppose there's someone with a warped desire to drink hot coffee through their nostril. Now, you see the damage that would do to the individual. It would be foolish for a country to say, okay, we will now go and make law and public policy, and anybody who says you shouldn't drink hot coffee through your nostril, we will punish you. You will be cancelled. You are a hater. You are a bigot. And the government goes and make laws and make sure that everybody fall in line with that, which is what's happening in Western countries. But we in the Caribbean must resist that. And as I said, the church in Jamaica, fortunately, certainly is resisting that sort of thing.
Yeah, you know, you made a statement about those that believe that there are over 100 genders and that a man can have a baby, and you know, all these different things that they want to push. Now, you're a medical doctor, and you just said that, you know, we should treat them with kindness, but they have psychological issues. Now, would you now what I want to say is that we need to understand in Barbados that there is, based on what has happened to Praise Academy, what you just said, if you said that on a NIFCA stage, you would be disqualified, because our production did not even speak anything negatively that they would consider, you know, negative. We didn't label them. Somebody could say you're labeling them by calling them, you know, that saying that they have a psychological issue. Of course, you're a doctor, and so you understand that, you know, but I'm saying I want people to understand the seriousness of what has happened to Praise Academy.
Yeah, the fact is they do. You know what? This agenda, this LGBT agenda, is being pushed by significant players in the Caribbean. For example, University of the West Indies is probably the biggest LGBT advocate and lobby in the Caribbean. It is the University of the West Indies receives funding in part from George Soros' Open Society Foundation. George Soros is a billionaire, and he, well, you know, if you pay the piper, you call the tune. So he actually funded a group in the Faculty of Law in the University of the West Indies, a group called URAP, which is University Rights Advocacy Project, to remove the buggery law from a country in the Caribbean. And they sat and they thought about it, and they realized that Belize met the criteria in terms of the government, for example, would not challenge the removal of the buggery law. So this is what I call strategic litigation. They sat down and planned it with funding from George Soros's Open Society Foundation, and they got the buggery law removed from Belize. Okay, so this is the Faculty of Law of the University of the West Indies. Why is it important to get the buggery law removed? Because the buggery law is a line in the sand that says everything is not normal. There are some intimate behaviors that are abnormal. And you cannot build on LGBT ideology, which involves, same-sex marriage and punishing people who don't agree. You cannot start building laws. You cannot start, my goodness. Can you still hear me?
Yes, we're hearing you. We're hearing you.
All right, right. You cannot start building laws to impose LGBTQ ideology on your society if you have a buggery law, because the buggery law says that that is abnormal. So that's why you have to remove it. So the Faculty of Law at the University of the West Indies took it upon itself to take funding from George Soros and do that in Belize. And you would notice that a number of Caribbean territories are having judges remove the Buggery law as well. And the whole purpose is to be able to consolidate LGBTQ ideology through the legal process. And that's why they are seeking to do it. This is funded as well, particularly the trans ideology, is funded by billionaires. You're talking money, okay? And these billionaires fund universities, they fund lawyers, etc., to do this, because what they want to do is to impose the nonsense, and it is nonsense, of LGBTQ ideology on the population. Because people must understand, we live under the rule of law. Everyone is subject to the rule of law, as individuals, as institutions. So the church itself is subject to the rule of law. So if these organizations like the University of the West Indies, etc., and the various lawyers and activist judges who are all focused on imposing this ideology on the Caribbean people, if they are allowed to remove the Buggery law and construct these fake rights, because they are fake rights, they are rights based on passion, not based on any sense, and they are allowed to make these fake rights, they will force our countries to conform to what is essentially nonsense, but not just nonsense, but harmful. It should be noted, for example, that homosexuality was removed from the Psychiatric Association of the United States, a book called the DSM, which is the Diagnostic Statistical Manual. It was removed by a vote, okay? And it was done because there were homosexuals within the American Psychiatric Association and homosexuals outside who were marching, picketing, breaking up meetings of the American Psychiatric Association and forced their Psychiatric Association to remove homosexuality as an abnormality. And they declare eventually to make it, quote unquote, normal. But that is a foolish concept, because of all the billions of people who have been born on the earth, not one has come out of a homosexual union. So to make homosexuality normal and equate it to heterosexuality is nonsense. What we have are people with influence, as I say, in universities, like the University of the West Indies, people with money, billionaires, like George Soros, and there are others, who are pushing this agenda to impose what is really nonsense and bad for the society on the society. And they are activist judges, meaning judges who are willing to make rulings that are inconsistent with sense and even law in order to push this thing. So we have to be aware of that. We make that clear in Jamaica, and people in Barbados need to make it clear as well.
Yeah, this is so interesting. I mean, you know, Mr. Franklin, he's talking about the University of the West Indies being partly funded by George Soros, and that is really the seat of this whole thing. I remember there was a policy that was sent out where we saw it in the newspaper, where at the university they were now saying that you needed to call people by their pronouns. We saw it here in Barbados. So it is something that this agenda, the doctor is saying is, Dr. West is saying that it is being really cradled or being pushed out through the University of the West Indies because of the funding that they're receiving from George Soros. And that is a very, very strong point that is being made here tonight. But I want to ask you this thing with Praise Academy, because it's bothering me. What has occurred, because you see what you, Dr. West, since that has occurred, there was another ad that Watch Out My Children did about the child protection bill, and it was a drama about a mother complaining about her child coming to. In fact, let me play the ad. Let me just play this ad. Take a look at this ad, and this ad, Mr. Dr. West, was rejected by the newspaper that we sent it to. We wanted to do an online to pay for it to go online. So I'm going to play the ad for you so that you could just take a look at it and see what, because I'm not sure if Bajans realizing what's going on. You know, I really am not sure. So just take a look at this ad. And then I'm not sure if Caswell has a question for you or so. Okay, just hang on. Just look at this ad.
What's this? What is this ignorance I see in front of me? I sent school my child so he could get a solid education. Lord knows he need it. He come home telling me he learned about gender and gender identity and how I, his mother, must call he by his correct pronouns. What? I don't believe in that ignorance. God created the man for how he should be. What pronouns he telling me about? Now he gonna get a lawyer for me. He mother get a lawyer to tell me like, what is it? Cause he emotional abuse. And I could be labeled as a child abuser. What ignorance is this? What ignorance is this he bringing before me today? Because I want to raise my child in the right way and teach you the values of the Lord, I could get penalized for this. Father God, no. Barbados, watch out. This can't be for real.
But it could be. This can happen under the Child Protection Bill 2023. It could happen to you.
Or me. Grandfathers, fathers, uncles, brothers. It can happen to you.
It could be me.
It could be you.
Barbados, watch out.
Yeah, this ad was sent to Barbados today to be be a paid advertisement where we put money together. They created the ad, and they said they had to send it to I think their legal team, and they sent back and said we can't play the ad. Now this happened. That happened actually about 2 weeks after what happened with Praise Academy. But what is your take on it?
Well, first of all, what the people in the ad said is that absolutely true. It's what's coming to Barbados. If you do not prevent, the LGBTQ people and the activists and so on from, commandeering the heights of the society, they're going to shut down parents. They're going to send parents to jail. They are going to have these kids abused, mutilated because use puberty blockers, and that's a fact. It's happening in places like the United States and Canada. The argument that you're abusing children because they will become suicidal. That is what they use to push the agenda. Say, oh, you're not allowing the children to undergo gender transition, and they will commit suicide. Well, the fact is, studies that have been done in Sweden over about 30 years have shown that the suicide rate is not really affected by these various abuse and mutilation of the children that in terms of their gender transition. And in fact, in the UK and in Sweden, they are actually backing away from doing some of these, subjecting children to these mutilations in order to shift their gender. So yeah, the ad is absolutely correct. There, the Archbishop of Port of Spain, I can't remember his name now, but I saw a comment he made about the ACP-EU agreement, and he made the point. He said there's nothing more colonial than the LGBT agenda. It is an absolutely fascist and totalitarian agenda that seeks to suppress any speech that is against it, and that's what you are experiencing in Barbados. People are critiquing what is a clear plan and what is happening in places like the United States, Canada, etc. But you are not allowed to say so because these people are really they're like Marxists, they're like communists. You're not allowed to speak against them. And Barbadians will experience more and more of that sort of stuff. That's a fact.
Wow. Yeah, because when you see what has occurred there, only 2 weeks after. So this is, and I think pastors, hopefully that they will see it as a wake up call. You know, is that a clip that is there? Right. So that is Archbishop Charles
Yeah.
Jason Gordon.
Right.
Archbishop Charles Jason Gordon. Yes, yes.
That's
Caswell.
that speech. I think you should. I keep saying it should be shared as widely as possible. I think he covered a lot of good stuff. He recognizes this fascist, totalitarian, communist-like approach of the LGBT people who suppress speech, and he calls it out, and that's a fact. And like I said, that's what Barbados is experiencing at the moment.
Yes, yes. Caswell, let me see if I can remove that and to see if we can get Caswell back in.
Yes, I'm
Mr.
here.
Franklin, yes, he is a trade unionist and a former senator, and a very, very, I call him a man of God, you know, because he stands up for what is truth and what is righteous. And you're listening to Mr. West. Is there any question or comment that you have for him?
Well, just comments, because I agree with everything that he said. I can't dispute anything that he's saying. And man, that is rare. I always find something to dispute. And so, but in this case, I can only agree. You see, and the problem here, and like I will continue to say, we want to live above our means. So we want to achieve things with other people's money. But you know the old saying, he who pays the piper calls the tune. So if you want our money, this is what you have to do. And I keep saying it's like prostitution. So you prostitute yourselves with other people's money, and this is what we're getting. This thing. They're destroying the morals of this country, and well, Belize and all the others. And because you know this, I'm thinking Antigua, I think they've done it. The whole set of them. But they're for the sake of the almighty dollar. Because the dollar now has become almighty, as opposed to the creator becoming almighty. It's being almighty now. The dollar takes precedence over everything else, and when you have godless people running our countries, this is what you will get. You have to say no sometimes, and we're suffering from that.
You know, if I may say that, with respect to the Buggery law, you know, people always present the Buggery law as though you are interfering with what people do in private places, in their privacy. Nothing could be further from the truth. The issue of the Buggery law is not about what people do in private. It is about public policy and law in the public sphere. That's what it is about. The reason why, you know, France, for example, removed its Buggery law, I think in 1781, somewhere along that, a long time ago. And life continued in France as normal, quote unquote. But the French had same-sex marriage just within the last 10 years or so. I can't remember the exact time. Because there has been a fundamental shift. The shift is that the so-called gay rights movement, with support again of universities, money, and business, want to change the very fabric of society. So whilst the French removed their Buggery law in 1781, there was no push to change the fabric of the society. What is a marriage? What you can say, what you cannot say. But because the LGBT political lobby, supported by universities and various politicians, wish to impose it on the society, and anybody who goes against it is punished. And not only will people be punished, but children must be taught it using what they call comprehensive sexuality education. And that is about teaching children that pornography and behaving in a nihilistic way, that you can have sex as you want, and anarchist, you're not accountable to anybody, your parents can't really tell you anything. That's where it's going. That's where these things are going. Because of that political lobby, it is important to retain your Buggery law. I know Barbados, a judge has removed the Buggery law recently, about a year or so ago. But in Jamaica, we are have always been fully aware that that is the agenda. The agenda is not about what people do in the privacy of their bedroom. It is about what the society will be like and what people, including parents, will be able to do in the public square. That is what this agenda is about. So we have determined that we're going to hold the line on it, because just as no one should impose communism on us as a society, we don't want anybody imposing this ideology on us through the courts or through any other way. The people must decide if they want to change it. If the people choose to embrace this ideology, well, we are democracies, so be it. But no one must impose it on the society, because it results in a radical change in the society. And you see, as I say, you are experiencing there are things that now you cannot say in Barbados. And if the church did not respond to it before those laws were changed, I'd be surprised if the church will respond when the laws are being changed now, and persecution and the prosecution are likely to follow.
So I want to pause you there, because I know you said it to me on the phone, and it was very sobering, because you're saying to me, Marcia, let's be real, if the church did not speak up before, what is going to cause them to speak up now? And because I was saying, probably if they're persecuted, probably if more of this starts to happen, they will speak up. You're thinking possibly the opposite.
Well, let me first of all acknowledge the good work of Faith Family and I think something FFP in Barbados.
Yes.
That's Sister Veronica and her team. I could call some names, but when you start calling names, you run into problem because you forget. All right. So
Yeah.
I acknowledge the good work that they have been doing for a long time. But I would be surprised if the church, which is lackadaisical and not interested when you're not persecuted, would come to the battle when persecution and prosecution start. I may be surprised, but I'll be surprised. I'll be pleasantly surprised if the church in Barbados does that. But I have a feeling that if you're not doing anything, when you're not persecuted, when persecution starts, you probably will just conform or fall away.
You see, Marcia,
Well,
he's
yeah.
made another good point. It is nothing about criminalizing what people do in the privacy of their room. Because if it was about that, the police would be knocking on your door to see what you're doing. Nobody goes and knock on your door to see what you're doing in your bedroom. Because in order to prosecute a person for doing something like that, you got to be doing it in public. And I don't know of any people who go in public and practice that type of, but people call it sex. I refuse to call it sex, and sex. So, but if you do it in the public, it is a criminal offense, because you are because our laws are probably Christian laws. You can't basically come for the Bible, and you cannot go there and do those things in public. Because if you saw two people on the street having sex, I talk about real sex, not the nonsense we're talking about now, the police will hold them. So it's not about anything in your bedroom. It is about these people using any argument that they feel would work to convince people. I go down to the bedroom and they don't know if any policeman going to knock on your door and push it down. From the time you hear the police outside, you're doing anything, anyhow you will get up. So they can't come and find you doing anything in the privacy of your bedroom. There's foolishness. And this nonsense is going on, and people are using that argument. I don't care what you do in your bedroom. I don't want you to promote it among our children. And now, if you have two concerned adults in their bedroom, that's their business. I don't care. They will have one there to speak to the master, and he will determine if what they're doing is right, because I'm not their judge. But I will frown upon any person who try to impose this ideology on the people, and especially on the children.
Yeah. Someone says here the church needs to put Christ before party. There is no persecution of the church here because the church offends no one. And that's why Praise Academy is the one facing the music, because we teach the children based on science, and we teach the children based on the word of God. The church prefers to conform as opposed to confront. And that is what this is what somebody watching is saying. Another person says here, I totally agree with you, Sean. The church has voted this government in office. That's why they cannot speak up now. They're too ashamed. This is what the people are saying. Yes. Okay. Yeah. There's some other comments there, but I thank you so much for what you're saying. It's quite sobering. When you made that comment to me, I had me thinking for days. But I'm thinking about the Samoa Agreement, and I said these people in Jamaica, bold, man. They are bold. I read your article, and you talked about Jamaica not giving away its sovereignty, not selling its children. Would you say that Barbados signing this agreement, that if Barbados is sold its children to this agenda?
Absolutely. Article 47, I think 48. I don't have it in front of me. Speak 48, item 7. I don't have it in front of me, but I think that's it. It speaks to that the parties must use comprehensive sexual education. That is comprehensive sexuality education. The reason why we took a stand against it in Barbados, in Jamaica, is because we saw how this would impact the children. The children are our future. And this is designed to make the children, as we say, with respect to sexual matters, nihilistic. Everything is permissible. You can do whatever you want. And anarchist, you really do not answer to anybody. That's the objective. And that fits in with, you see, LGBTQ, that by definition is nihilistic and anarchist. It is everything that is permissible. For the time being, they have not added certain things. But when people are now talking about minor attracted. Minor attracted is pedophilia. They change the name. Instead of saying that we support pedophilia, they're talking about minor attracted. Now, when will that come? We're not sure, but I think you could expect that is going to come. The children, anybody who signs this ACP-EU agreement is signing away their children's spirits and souls to the devil, literally, because it is about making abortion legal. Because if you live a nihilistic, and if you have a nihilistic and anarchist approach to sex, you will need to have abortion because women will become pregnant, and you have to have abortion to facilitate that. Okay, so this is the secular worldview. We must realize that we are in a war with the secular worldview. People who say there is no God, okay, and the biblical worldview, which starts in the beginning, God. And naturally, the secular people will want certain laws and public policy. And unfortunately, the church in Barbados seems to be conforming to those laws and public policies instead of being the salt and the light that should shine in the darkness, because that is really dark. That is affecting Barbados.
Yeah. The article that you mentioned is Article 48 of the Samoa Agreement.
Yeah.
And it talks about, I'm looking at it right here, it talks about comprehensive sexual and reproductive health information and education. And so Barbadians, if we're going to, our government, they have signed it and they are defending it. Why they've done it. And the funny thing about it, at least in Jamaica, you had some kind of debate. I heard that, that one of your persons were able to speak to, one of your young person brought it up, in a public setting.
In a town hall meeting where the prime minister was present. And again, I just want to show you that our umbrella group of churches, the Jamaica umbrella group of churches, brought it up with the prime minister, who asked the Minister of Foreign Affairs to address it. Now, we have to say that, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs keeps saying that, look, even though we signed this, it would not affect our laws. It would not affect our laws. But we kept saying, why not write a little amendment saying that these things do not apply to Jamaica? Because when you sign a document, you have to be careful. Once you sign it, there's a system where they say it should, certainly with UN treaties, it should be ratified by your parliament. But it's something that really doesn't work. Let me tell you why it doesn't work. In Barbados, for example, if you sign that document and you argue that it has to be ratified by your parliament, but your parliament has 30% of the seats, all the seats, so it's automatically going to be ratified. Similarly, if any government has the majority in the parliament, so if the government signs a treaty and they say it has to be ratified by the parliament, well, the government that signed the treaty has the majority to ratify it in the parliament. So that is clearly an inadequate system for dealing with things like this. And
so hold a minute. This is because I was there saying, Mr. Franklin, that we probably can push for it not to be ratified, but you raised, and that's why I tell you, I like to talk to you, but at the same time, Dr. West, sometimes you just throw things at me. You're like Mr. Franklin. The question, so you're saying that because we have the government has all the seats in parliament, that basically it's already ratified. We can't wait on that because they're the ones that would ratify it. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely, and even if they didn't have all, they would have the majority. So it is pure tokenism to say that we signed this treaty, it must be ratified in the parliament when you have the majority in the parliament and you signed the treaty. It's going to be ratified. It's pure tokenism. It should be discussed with the people up front, and the people should have input.
Oh boy, Mr. Franklin, you're hearing that?
Absolutely, I'm listening. I'm all ears. Because but we have been saying this thing that what Barbados did by installing a parliament of 30, they can't even say like-minded people. They got no mind. They just got one mind and they're ruling the place, and they follow her dictates. So everything will happen. Have you seen any person in parliament saying we don't agree, except in one instance where they allowed each other to say and they stop this and disputed something but she said, I'm voting for it, but these are some issues that they have. You are opposed to it, but you have to vote for it. So again, Dr. Best is absolutely right. We don't have a democracy in Barbados right now. We have a dictatorship. And our dictator is a woman called MIA MOTTLEY. And she's like one of those feudal kings, where their word was law. Her word is no law in Barbados. And you remember she did it during the COVID. Everybody took all the cabinet gave her all their powers to make regulations. So we're seeing this thing happening. It will be signed into law. Mind you, the Caribbean Court of Justice said that if you sign it, it is enforceable. So whether you like it or not, the covenant is a treaty that we sign is enforced. So we are in deep trouble unless the people of Barbados stand up and say, this is a line in the sand and you are not crossing it. But unfortunately, Marcia, there are not very many people willing to do that out of fear. And the same thing the first guest was talking about, where the government does what they want to do. And they pick their people, friends, family, and whatever else. Same thing happens here. So we are in trouble. And unless we decide to vote our conscience, tell the people in Parliament, vote your conscience. You don't worry about the party affiliation now. But that will not happen. Because if that happens, we're not going to get the money from all these people that are funding it. So we are selling our souls to the devil. And it's as simple as that, The devil don't only come with horns, The devil does not only come with horns. The devil comes As a matter of fact, it may come in a female form.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Caswell. There is a question here saying, is there any value in an argument that we should sign the EU agreement strictly on the grounds of the economic benefits, and that we're nitpicking when we focus on the LGBT or transgender aspects? What do you say to that, Dr. West? The question is right here on the screen.
Is there any value in an argument that we should sign? Yes. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we're hearing you.
All right. And that we are nitpicking when we focus on the LGBT. The question is a little bit unusual. There is an argument to say that this should be trade and let us stick to trade. I certainly agree with that. In fact, and if you want to put other things, we must put things that protect our citizens. Okay? So our governments could have argued, I think there was a certain time limit when you could have said, we don't agree with this, and it will be considered. But for some reason, our government, for example, didn't seem to see it or didn't care, or I don't know, we're not sure what. We're not nitpicking at all, because the LGBT ideology, transgender ideology, is an ideology that is pervasive. It's going to tell parents what to do. It destroys the lives of children. It destroys society. It is nonsensical, because it equates what is normal with what is abnormal, and a society would not flourish with that being the case. So we are not nitpicking. This is real. And we are saying in Jamaica that we do not want this aspect of the thing, because it imposes on the society, people who sign, a commitment to advance the LGBTQ ideology. And that goes all the way, as I said. So you see that ad that you put out that was banned? The ad is correct. There's going to come a time, as in the United States, for example, or in Canada, in which children would be transitioned by teachers and parents will not be informed. And if the parents seek to get information or seek to go against it, they may very well end up losing the children, meaning the children will be taken by the state. All of that sort of thing is part of the construct. This is an absolutely evil political agenda. It's a political agenda, and it's absolutely evil. It's of course spiritual. I should say it's a spiritual agenda that is taking place through the political process. But it's absolutely evil. And the organization that should be standing against it is the church. The church, that is the church's responsibility, to be salt and light in the world.
Look, to answer that question, I was going to answer it by saying, what does LGBT has to do with trade? If you're going to have a trade agreement, have a trade agreement. But this is much more than trade. You know, unless you're saying that you're going to trade in that type of behavior too, because again, that's called prostitution. You know what I mean? So we are trying to make prostitutes of our government and our people. You want money, so you got to bend over for it. That has nothing to do. LGBT has nothing to do with trade. It's trade agreement. I remember the first thing was Lome. Remember, and Lome dealt with. In Barbados, for us, it was sugar. I hope we get preferential treatment for our sugar in the European Union. That was all about. It didn't have anything to do with LGBTQ, nothing else. What happening now? We have people who are ungodly, who are trying to deliver us unto Satan. People might think I sound like a preacher, but I'm not a preacher. They will use their money to get us there. And they will use our leaders, who they identify as having no morals, to get us there as well. All they're interested is in money, and they will wave the money in front of them, and this is what we will get. We don't have to be first world.
Yeah. My apologies. I was just going to say that, if you sign, if you sign that agreement, and I gather that the Caribbean Court of Justice is your final court of appeal. Well, the Caribbean Court of Justice, I would go so far as to say that it is a great sympathizer of the LGBT political ideology. Okay, this Caribbean court, the president, I think, described the court as an executing agency for donor funds for UN Women. Now, UN Women is one of the most rabid LGBTQ and feminist ideological organizations in the world. I don't know why the UN has a UN Woman, apart from to push these radical ideologies. It should have a UN family. You know, you would think a clear thinking or institution would have UN family that looks after man, his wife, and their children. No, they have UN women, and UN women come straight out of gender ideology and so on in the universities, which is just, it's really very rabid LGBTQ and feminist ideology. That's what the UN is UN and UN women are about. So why the Caribbean Court of Justice should be taking money from that agency? It shows that it's compromised. It's a thoroughly compromised court. And the thing about it, the Privy Council, the judges in the Privy Council, whilst they do have an ideological sympathy for the LGBT ideology, they at least, in the recent past at least, in the rulings they have made sure they stayed within the law instead of advancing their political ideology. And let me just say straight up that we had a case on our Buggery law in Jamaica, and our judges, let me commend them, they did the same. They, in their judgments, two of them indicated that they are big sympathizers to the illogic of the LGBT ideology. Well, they're entitled to that, but at least they knew that their role is to adjudicate the law, and they stayed within that role and ruled correctly. We have seen in the Caribbean where judges are not adjudicating law, but they're making law. Okay, like in the Belize situation, the judge in that case actually made changes to the Belizean constitution in order to rule to remove the Belizean Buggery law. That is the commitment of some of our judges, and we call those judges activist judges. I am wary, and we, like in the Jamaica Coalition and other people in Jamaica, we are wary of the activism of the Caribbean Court of Justice. We see that type of activism in other courts in the Caribbean, but we are really wary of the Caribbean Court of Justice, because if it becomes our final court of appeal, we will be locked into a court that seems to be, well, if you an executing agency for donor funds from UN Women, what type of rulings are you going to be making? And why should we bind ourselves to a court that has that particular perspective? You follow?
That is why I'm so happy that Jamaica has stayed clear from the Caribbean Court of Justice. All they try to do to entice Jamaica to join this court, Jamaica has wisely said no. Because, mind you, I was one of the people in support of the CCJ when it first started, when they were talking about it. However, I have seen their work, and their work leaves me in shock and disappointment. I cannot support them. I do not support them. I think that they have betrayed their oath when they set about to do this nonsense. You can, and first of all, why are they seeking funding from anybody else when the people who actually sat down and formed the court, who actually prepared the ground for the court, said and they ruled that the court should be funded by a trust fund subscribed to by the governments of the countries that are in the court, and that they will not be able to be influenced by money. That they put money there in a fund, and this fund was supposed to be a fund that they can invest to make more money rather than have to rely on anybody for their funding. The Caribbean Court of Justice has betrayed its origins by getting money from anybody. And that's the problem. So see now, even the court has sold its soul. And we got to be very careful, because if we have a court that is willing to be purchased, well, the governments in this country can do anything, because the courts will find a way to justify their behavior, and that is what I'm afraid of.
Yeah. Let me just say that I personally would like a Caribbean Court of Justice. I think that is it's something that I, as a Caribbean person, would like. I don't want this Caribbean Court of Justice, and because courts have a philosophical approach that they itemize as to their conduct and their modus operandi. And one of the items in the Caribbean Court of Justice is really a statement that says that the whole LGBTQ concept is something that the court basically embraces, and people who don't embrace this cannot sit on that court. Now, I have to be careful because I don't have the exact quote, but I would like you to search it out, because there is a statement, that a preamble to the why of the court, why the court is here, and it references those sort of things. And basically, like I said, persons who hold views that are contrary to supporting the LGBTQ can't really sit on that court. So you see what the court is. You see what the focus of the court. This is why I said I am all for a Caribbean Court of Justice, but not as it is at the moment. Its preamble, its objective, the why of the court has to change, and also why should it be executing agency for donor funds for UN Women, this LGBT organization? So we are going to resist having the Caribbean Court of Justice as our final court of appeal until and unless we can get those sort of changes. There's no reason why we should have a court that is basically going to be ruling on LGBT and imposing that on our society. Why should we have that as our final court of appeal? We don't see any good reason to have such a court.
No, they're legislating for these countries. They're actually legislating. I said that in the Senate, and the president of the Senate, tell me I know what I'm talking about, and I say no way you can say so, because you burn the lawyer for one of these cases that I'm criticizing, so don't jump in here for me, because they ruled in your favor, and he didn't bother me anymore, because I had my facts with him too. The courts are legislating. I even wrote to them in a case, and they're arrogant as well. They did some arithmetic, and they multiplied 2 by 2 and get 3. And I wrote to them, I said, but the math's wrong. They didn't even look back at me. But the man got a smaller award because they're so arrogant. They're self-important. They do not want to acknowledge any underlings like me, even when they are wrong. And the thing is, this is only science, this is maths. You put in calculator, you work with a pencil and paper, you can still get the answer. But they didn't get the answer. When you tell them, they fob you off. They don't even want to fix their own mistakes. I have a problem with them. So you say you don't have a problem. I'm like you. I would like to see a Caribbean court, but not this one. This one has proven to me that it should be abolished.
Yeah. Start from scratch. Start from scratch.
Well,
change the philosophical approach and make it one that is rooted in sense. Because, as I said, the LGBT agenda is rooted in passion and desire. It's not based in sense.
Perversion.
Perversion. We are going to listen. This has been going on for so. I thought it would have been shorter, but it's so interesting, and there's just so much information that you're giving to us, Dr. Weston. We are so grateful to you, and I want to say to Jamaica, don't forget about Barbados. We are your sister country, and whenever I know I'm going to be calling on you, because now they have ruled against Praise Academy, and we believe that we should not leave it there. And I'm sure I'm going to be giving you a call tomorrow. I'll be bothering you all, because we need energy, we need strength over here. And we're not getting it from our leaders. We're not getting it from organizations that's supposed to be assisting us. We're not getting that from them, not at all. So I'm going to be calling on you. But here's somebody asking you a question. And this is the last question for you because we're going to have to run to something else. It says, what is our move now, seeing there's no opposition in Parliament, so that we are now bound to this agreement? What do you suggest? I know you don't live in Barbados, but you're a Caribbean man. You're a Trini living in Jamaica. And we need your help, man. You guys strong over there, so talk to us.
Well, we had been with talks with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for 27 months about this thing, and we weren't getting what we consider to be traction. We spoke with our church leaders, and they spoke with the Prime Minister. Again, we weren't getting any traction. So when we saw that it was coming up to sign, we decided we were going to take to the streets. We're going to protest. And then we sent out things on social media and told people to send statements. We send the email address of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and so on, and tell people, bombard the ministry and said, do not sign this thing. We're not sure why the government did not sign this. They suddenly say there are things that they need to consider. But two things: they knew that our churches were involved because the umbrella group, which is the heads of the of 7 divisions of the 7 divisions of the church, spoke to the Prime Minister. So the Prime Minister knew that. They also knew that we had a pretty big march, bigger than any political march in 2014 and 2015 in halfway tree. So I will put it maybe that when they heard maybe that we were going to protest, we were taken to the street, they decided to change. I'm not sure, but that's my feeling. What am I saying here? I'm saying there comes a time when you got to take to the street. You have to say to the government, don't sign this, otherwise you'll pay the consequence. But you have to be willing to make the government pay the consequence if they sign it. And if there isn't that enthusiasm to stand for righteousness, then you may not have something. But like I said, we were going to protest. We told people to bombard the ministry using their WhatsApp and their email, said, do not sign this. So now that they've signed it, they should say that, the people have to say, we do not support this. It's late, but at least let the government know that you don't support it through either protests or some sort of social media campaign.
Yeah.
When it comes to that, it comes to that.
Yes. Somebody's asking, can we go to the UN and can we go to the UN and present our case as a people to get out of this agreement?
Well, first of all, this is not a UN agreement. It's an EU, European Union agreement. I know your government has signed it. The issue is with the government. The issue you have is with the government. You have to let the government know that you need to protect your children from and the future of the country from this agreement, and you have to find some way to do that.
Marcia, that question again says to the people of Barbados, we want somebody else to do it for us. We must be willing to stand up and do it for ourselves. We don't want the UN. We don't want anybody. We want the voters of Barbados to say to the government of Barbados, oh, you did here? Well, you don't get my vote again. That is what the people must do. And let them know, come on the streets, march peacefully. I ain't want nobody breaking on nobody walls and scratching the cars to do anything. I just want you to come out there and let the government see you. When the government see you and your numbers on the street, they have second thoughts. No UN, nobody else. You are Barbadians. You have the power to fix these things on your own. And if you don't want to do that, you will suffer the consequences. You suffer the consequences of this government already, and you refusing to stand up, hoping that there's going to be some divine intervention or somebody from outside can come and do it for you. Nobody's going to do it for you. You have to stand up. You hear Dr. Benz talking about that big march in Jamaica, the march that they proposed, and government start back because, and then again, the church people. Jamaica is still a Christian society, and a lot of people, even though they might not go to church, identify themselves as Christians. And if you start doing something that you be seeing as unchristian, and the churches speak up against it, their members are not going to vote for you. So you need, because the members of the churches vote too, you know. So that is what you have to do. The churches must be involved. The people got to stand up for themselves. If you don't stand up for yourself, you are willing to be a slave in Barbados hereafter. That's all it is.
Yeah. Well said, Mr. Franklin. Well said. And with that, we just want to thank Dr. West for spending this time with us. And as I said, I'm going to, the worst thing is for me to have your number. I'm going to call you with questions and to see what can be done. And please keep us in your prayers. So we want the people to rise up, and we have to keep pushing. Thank you so much, sir. God bless you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Yes.
Yes,
It's
God
good.
bless.
It's good. It's very good to see you.
Yes. Wow. This is really an eye opener. This is I tell you, every night there is something more, that comes up. And it's quite interesting, but we need to move it now from saying it's quite interesting to actually do something about it. And we have planned 7 marches using this platform, Mr. Franklin, and a lot of people. The most we have probably about 300 or so persons out there.
Yes.
They don't come out in their numbers. The march that Jamaica had was not a union march, but the churches came out in their numbers. The churches know that once the pastor says that we're going on the street, then they're going on the street. But the pastors are not saying that. And so the churches are not. And if they don't want to come to the marches that we're planning, then the churches can plan their own marches. You know what I mean? And then everybody support them. But don't just sit there and do nothing. I see Kemar has joined. I didn't see him earlier, so we kind of went a different direction. I don't know if he has his headphones on. Good night, Kemar.
Hi, good night. Sorry to be late.
Good night, Kemar.
Yeah, I had another meeting this evening that went over. I was sharing the platform with Ronald Jones, the former Minister of Education. So we did some presentations on education. So that's where you got into.
Very good. Okay. So you don't have your headphones.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's gone to get the headphones,
Right.
but
Better now?
should
Yes.
be. Yes, Caswell says yes, but we want to jump. We want to jump because we promised the people. So I don't want to. And we had a guest, so we couldn't get into this. But I wanted to. I went online, guys, and I found this article, and I honestly I didn't go on there looking for this. The truth is, I just went. I was trying to just to do some research on this gentleman, and this is what came up. It's an article from 2015, and this is the Arbiter from the NCF Arbiter, who is also a BLP member
Senator.
and senator, a BLP senator, and who is also we're being told, we're not sure, but it's been alleged that he's also the lawyer for NCF, and he's also the arbiter for NCF. He's a BLP senator, and it is being alleged that he is they're seeking to give him the seats there in St. Thomas for him to run for that seat. But I saw this thing here that in 2015 that he was taken to court for 9,500. I could not find where he was cleared of it or that the person told a lie on him, etc. I didn't see it. Can anybody shed any light on this? It's in the newspaper.
This
So
story
it's nothing that
is correct. This story is correct. He was taken to court for some money. This person alleged that as a candidate, Gregory Nichols borrowed this money from him to help run his campaign. Gregory's story, on the other hand, was that it was a donation. But my position is simply this. It can't be a donation, because if it were a donation, he should have put it in his returns to the electoral office. You know, you see, the thing is, what people do, they give people money to campaigns, hoping to get back. But he ran against St. Clair at the time and lost. So he ain't getting a seat, he ain't getting a ministry. So he cannot find that money to pay back people. And that is where the problem was, you know. You cannot, you see, the thing is, no person look at it from this perspective. The guy says he wanted money to help run his campaign. I lent it to him. And he didn't pay me back. So I put him in court. That was the essence of the thing.
Okay.
On the other hand, he is saying, no, this was a donation. If it were, and my position now is, and what the law is, that if there is a campaign donation, you must put it in the returns to the electoral office. And the person who also donated that money must make a declaration to the electoral office as well. So I don't know if you found the money and pay back the fund, and the case never finished, but this is a fact. This is the guy who is arbiter. You can't be arbiter without that hanging over you. And first of all, you can't be arbiter if, as I am informed, you are working for one of the parties in the dispute. You know? And he ought to know that. Every lawyer, or every person who spent 6 weeks in law school so far, you ain't gonna get your whole 5 years, 6 weeks, and you would know that you can't do that. You know? But
conflict of interest.
It's
seemingly,
it
is true. It is
appears
seemingly
to be a conflict of interest, and it appears to be able to bias his position, even if his position was accurate and in accordance with what the law says. He will not be able to give that position because he should not be the person hearing the matter. It's as simple as that. It's something like calling recusing yourself. He should have been said to him, "Well, you're the arbiter." He should say, "Well, I can't hear this case because of my relationship with the NCF." But you know what happened? We have too many lawyers that want to get rich, and they will work for both sides in a matter. It happens. I'm not talking about him. I'm talking about lawyers who are willing to work for both sides. There are lawyers who will take your money and sell you out, like in a lot of insurance cases. So he's just one of those lawyers.
yeah.
I want to say
Yeah,
here
go ahead,
that
Kemar. Yes.
I want to say here that where my conflict of interest is coming is that I saw the attorney here representing cases on behalf of people against the government and successfully suing. Right? So how can you be successfully suing the government and then you representing the same government in cases? Right? That's a conflict of interest. Where on one hand you have open court cases against the government and still representing them. Right? Then you're a government senator. So that represents conflict of interest for me. Where you have persons in government positions paid by the government, and then they go into private practice through their law offices and still go and get financial compensation for cases from the government. Right? And not saying him, but sometimes when you check at the legal fees that you see the government paying, it's absurd. Right? So I have a challenge where you have a person who's politically active, being in the Senate, doing all these things, and they are in cases such as this thing with the NCF. I think it be biased by nature, right? But know that a by-election could be in the air in St. Thomas because we're hearing a lot of rumblings happening as it relates to a possible by-election in St. Thomas. And we're also hearing that this particular person is already on the ground canvassing in St. Thomas, introducing himself as the next candidate to replace the sitting MP who's Cynthia Ford. We're hearing that, right? So I would not be surprised, much like how we saw with Tony Moore when she was challenging the last government, and sometimes the things that they were sticking up for 20 something percent they want, and then when they got him, they sold up for 4%. More and more cases are going to happen like that because people are seeking political office, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's unfortunate that and I read some of the comments. I read some of the comments of this thing, and it seemed like a personal attack on Marcia Weeks, as opposed to fairly judging the facts at hand, right? So this is becoming political. So the government may not want to come out. Minister, who's the Minister of Culture? Uh, Chantel Monroe Knight.
No, 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 no. She is not the Minister of Culture. The Prime Minister is. She works
Yes.
for the Prime Minister in there. She's not the Minister of Culture. She might, because the Prime Minister ain't got the time to do work in Barbados. She's always about the place. She's got to get people to do her work for her. So hence Chantel Monroe Knight. But they call her Minister in the Ministry. Except that doesn't exist in our law, but they got one. You know. So the Prime Minister is the Minister of Culture. And as a matter of fact, I'll tell you something. Chantel Monroe Knight cannot sign any orders or anything coming out of the ministry because she is not the minister. Simply because, like, for instance, Ryan Strong is the minister in the Ministry of Finance. He can't sign an order. Mind you, he signed one with the severance pay. And now I am saying to you that when these people go before the National Insurance Tribunal at National Insurance, and that arbiter makes an award against an employer, they ain't gonna pay, and you can't sue them because the person who signed the order was not the minister. So I think that was a sham.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. So
I see.
thanks for that clarification. Go ahead, Kimar.
Right. But you're saying here now, a whole set of offices. The Prime Minister has almost all the ministries in her office. She has the Ministry for Planning and Development. She has the Ministry of Office of Culture, right? Because John King was the thing, and then we all know what happened to him, right? And you or we having situations where an issue of culture is impacted by gender wars, and saying that the piece was past distasteful. How is it distasteful? How is the truth distasteful? Don't matter what you do, as long as a man gets a woman pregnant, whatever comes through that birthing canal is either a male, a man, a woman, female. They can't come out half man, half woman. Well, they got hermaphrodites, but those are not in majority. But you can. Uh, so they're creating all types of new ideologies, trying to force them on the people. But as you see, they ain't coming direct and saying, well, this is what we want to do. They're trying to force it through the ministries. Education. They started through the Ministry of Education. Again, through one of the T.M. McConney, who seems to be one of the Prime Minister's favorites. I know they're using culture to persecute people like Marcia Weeks and the Prayers Academy of Dance by saying that the truth is distasteful, and you have a politically active attorney representing the case. How could that be fair or balanced in any way? Right? So this is what we should do now. We should ask him and the entire government to give the people of Barbados a positive position as to where they stand with this gender issue, and particularly issues of turning Barbados really into a LGBT friendly country in totality, as opposed to just smartly trying to change and subtly change the law and to corrupt the system to get acceptance for the agenda. Just come straight to the people. Come straight to the people. The same way we were supposed to come and we were supposed to go to referendum before we went to republic. That never happened. Right? So they're not asking you. They don't want to tell you in the Remote Employment Act. You will understand. Caswell pointed it out that they put something in there called domestic partnerships. Right? What was that? So the government is subtly trying to use legislation and use institutions of the state, much like the NCS, and taking political actors to put them to represent the government's position. Because this is the government's position, you know. Whatever
Correct.
NCS puts out is a representation of the government's position. So
It
the
is
government,
the representation of the Prime Minister's position. She is a minister.
all right. Thanks for the addition. So the government and the head of government, being the Prime Minister, is saying to Barbadians and saying to Praise Academy of Dance that your piece, which represents that there are two genders, is beyond, is tasteful and unacceptable for Barbadian society. But that's what it was all along. So how could it now be unacceptable unless there's an overarching plan and plot to completely change the laws of Barbados to suit this decision that was made in this little microcosm? But this little microcosm is an overall representation on the government's position on issues of gender and these new whatever they're trying to bring in with these things. So we need to watch
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, well, it's something that we have to watch. I know it's a minute past 10, and we have not even scratched the surface of going into this issue. I'm sorry, Kemar came on, as he said he had something else going on, which is important as well. I'm talking about education reform there with former Minister of Education Ronald Jones. But I think that we need to, Mr. Caswell, tomorrow night to put with Dr. Purdy to put some um, you know, more talk into this and to really break it down, to look at what he said. I think we need to look at the response. And as Kimar was saying, what about it is so distasteful? We have the entire thing. We can play pieces of it and keep playing it for the whole night. And look at it. Tell us, what about this is so distasteful? You said that they couldn't say that that it was it discriminated against anybody. They couldn't rule as it relates to the Constitution, but just on taste, that it was far beyond tasteful. You know, those kinds of things. Because I think people, for some, even church people, they say, well, the NCF said that, so they must be right. That's the thinking of some people, that, oh, they said that they were aggressive, so they must be right. These are 10-year-olds, 10-year-olds to teenagers, probably 16 years old. They were intimidated by them. What kind of aggression are they talking about? These are the things that I think that we really need, and it's kind of hard. I can't do. We need people, other people in society, to speak up on behalf of Praise Academy. These are children. Speak up on behalf of them. Don't let it happen like what happened with Springer. Speak up, because it's us now. And then what you see, what happened 2 weeks later, another ad was produced, and Barbados today was afraid to take the ad, won't take the ad because it mentioned gender. So what is going to happen? As Kimar says, we need to know what is it this government is actually doing. But that's tomorrow. We'll continue that, guys, tomorrow. But we want to say to everybody that we have an independence roadside parliament coming up. The flyer should be ready tomorrow, and it's going to be next week Saturday, not Sunday. Next week Saturday evening, and we were trying to get Independence Square. We didn't get it, so it's going to end up being in Queen's Park, because they, for some reason, every time we go now to get Independence Square, they won't give it to us. So we can't get Independence Square, they said. So we have to, they gave us Queen's Park, right? I sent it in note, Mr. Franklin. So that's where we are in Queen's Park, 5 o'clock on Saturday. That is going to be our Independence Roadside Freedom, Roadside Parliament. And you know what that is? It is mass resistance. That in itself is mass resistance to the eradication and the removal of Barrow's legacy. And the theme of it is preserving Barrow's legacy. Preserving Barrow's legacy. It's not sponsored by the DLP. Don't come around us with all of that, because some of you are going to say it's a DLP event. It's not sponsored by the DLP. It is preserving Barrow's legacy. And that when you come, we're going to show the movie. We're going to show that movie, Mr. Franklin, the Barrow Freedom Fighter, the movie that I wrote and directed and produced. That movie is going to be shown free of cost. If you watched the movie before, still come. When you come, you are resisting what they're doing. You are standing up for Barrow's legacy. So we're going to show you clips of the movie tomorrow and show you, we go into that a little bit more, okay? So that's tomorrow, all right? Mr. Franklin, I give you the last word, sir.
I will get my last word by just reading something for Kemar, because I want him to stop calling Brian Strong and these people ministers and responsible for anything. They're not responsible for anything. I'm reading for you section 73(1) of the Constitution. I'm reading part of it. It says, the president, acting in accordance with the advice of the prime minister, may, by instrument under the public seal, appoint from among the members of the two houses parliamentary secretaries to assist ministers in the discharge of their functions. You do not. A parliamentary secretary is basically an assistant to a minister. But you're having ministers, assistant ministers. They both not get the same pay. So who's the assistant? You see, it is a sham to put more money in the parliamentary secretary's pocket and call him minister. The Constitution does not allow for it. But we have a whole set of them: John King, Chantal Knight, Ryan Strong. Who else? You know, they call them ministers in the ministry of this and ministry of that. And the other fellow from St. Lucie, all of them, they were ministers in the ministry. The Constitution of Barbados does not allow for it, but they do it because they get the same pay as a minister who has responsibilities. It is raping the treasury, and whoever did it, you get to me, or an after did it before, he broke the law too. I don't care. Tom Adams did it, he broke the law too. And because somebody broke the law, they don't make it right for you to go and break it. So that's basically what I wanted to say, just to help, because you can find it in the Constitution. I am making it up. You see, just now when you saw me lean over, I have all these documents next to me, so I just reached and take it one, and they can read it for you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the education.
Marsha, if you don't mind, I just wanted to make one quick statement. Just to clarify something that I would have said on the show earlier in the week. And what I want to clarify it quickly is because I was approached again by a former head of the union seeking clarification on my comment, and that was comments on the BOSS program. Right?
Okay, Kemar, can we do that tomorrow?
Sure.
Yeah, let's, because it's 10:08. So let us make that. I'm gonna make that as a point for you, Kemar. We're gonna and when you come on and with Dr. Ferdinand, I'll come on later, and so we can actually, because I have the documents so that you sent me, and we can bring them up and show them on the screen and do it properly. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. All right. Thank you so much. God bless you, everybody, and see you tomorrow. Tomorrow night. It's been a wonderful show. God bless you. Have a good night. Love you all.
Good night.
Bye-bye. Good night.